Hey, how's it going? Happy Thursday. Did you guys have a good weekend? What have you guys been up to? So we're at the pattern drafting table today. You can see I've been fussing around with the lighting because the bar that I connect my cameras to is creating a shadow. I could not get rid of it. Hi Olivia, how's it going? And I'm wearing my t-shirt. I was wearing something else today and I realized this isn't fair. I should show you my t-shirt on because you haven't seen it on. And then you can see what I'm gonna do. Hi World Peace, how's it going? My cord was dangling right in front of your username. That's why I was like, hi Elaine, how's it going? Hello Ida, yay for pattern drafting. Hi Gail, how's it going? I think that says Gail. The font's like this tiny. Yay, Joe Mama! I'm glad you caught us live too. It's so fun. Like you can chat with people and ask questions and be a part of the whole thing. It's just different than anything else I've ever done. So, and it's really hard to describe to people, you know, unless they're there. And I hear people trying to describe it too, and it's the same thing, you know. It's like watching a live stream on Instagram is different than watching it like where you can kind of chat, you know, and hang out. So I'll wait a few minutes for everyone to get here before we start. But I can go over a couple things. I've got another Needle Sharp subscription box, and I'm now officially behind on them. I don't know why I'm not doing them. I think it's because the two I have are so winter-ish, because it's the bowline sweater that I have to sew still, and those ash jeans, I think, because Nancy sewed hers right up. Hi, Eliza. How's it going? And then I just got a culottes pair. Hi, Tracy. That's what it says, Tracy. South of England. Welcome. Oh, you're staying cool with your watermelon. Yes. I was literally at a doctor's appointment this morning, and hi, Louise. And the cover, the only magazine I picked up was the cover, and it had like all watermelon, like ways to serve it. I mean, and it looked really good and everything, but I was just like, watermelon's fine just the way it is, you know? And I don't really want to gild the lily because then I'll just keep doing that and then, you know, calories. So I just like my watermelon straight up because I eat ice cream for that, you know? Pick and choose, right? Yes, yes. Louise is from England as well. There's quite a few of you from not in the States. Hello, Ruth. Welcome. So glad to see you all. It's so weird only having the 2 streams a week. So like it is for me. I feel like it's forever since I've seen you guys on Saturday. And it's really because the pattern drafting, I don't really need to cut something out to sew it. You know what I mean? And then on Saturday, we're going to do some mending. You haven't sewn for a week? That's weird for me too when that happens, Ida. I know exactly what you mean. Like when I'll go to sit at my machine, I'm like, why does it feel like it's been forever since I've sat here? Oh, Louise, no. I will say, this is one thing about me. I can't stand goat cheese. And I've raised goats. I've raised milking goats. I managed a dairy goat herd. And I think it's because of that. Because I was fine with it before. I think I was fine with it before. You know? It's, it's like worse than a dislike for me. I don't know what it is. And you know, like when you're vegetarian, I'm not vegetarian, but I have been, and I've been around a lot of vegetarians, and I've eaten at a lot of vegetarian restaurants. They love feta and walnuts, and I don't like either one. I can handle walnuts though. I can eat those. I just don't really prefer them. I don't like them, but feta on watermelon, oh, what a crime. So, all right, so I'm wearing the t-shirt. So the backstory is for those of you who are new, and for those of you who are new, I am Sarami, and I just hang out with you guys, and I sew usually, or do pattern drafting, or cut out a garment. You can ask me questions. I'll try and demonstrate whatever. If I don't know how to do it, I'll figure it out or tell you. I make mistakes all the time. They'll tell you that. And I've been sewing for a really, really long time, since I was probably 14 or 15 years old. So for over 30 years I've been sewing. I went to school for design. I worked in the garment industry for a while. I've worked freelance. I've had my own businesses since my mid-20s. You love feta. See, I think it's just the thing. Like, yeah. Like, I love cheese, but man, raising a billy goat is no joke. And I think the smell, you know, is like, And just so for some of you to know that I stream live on Twitch, which is a live streaming platform. That's all I do there, and YouTube. So sometimes it looks like I'm talking to people and you're like, did I miss a comment? It's probably because they said something on the other platform. Most of you are on YouTube, but there are usually one or two of you on Twitch. Like Olivia's there now, I can tell. So yeah, so I try to get to everything, trying to get through all the things that we want to do, like cutting and sewing wise. Hearts is sending us more fabric and patterns, which is really awesome. And one of them's going to even stop by and visit me on Sunday because she's passing through, which is kind of fun. I haven't had a visitor yet in my new space. So that's cool. Hello, Carol. How's it going? And yeah, this is all we do. We just talk about sewing and fit and pattern drafting and our seam rippers, basically, right? And our sewing machines. So, let's see. I'll show you. Okay, so the other thing is I'm going to hop on board with the Beyond Measure sew along for 100 Acts of Sewing. And 100 Acts of Sewing is a pattern brand started by Sonia Phillip. I'm not sponsored or anything. I just really love Sonia and what she's done for the sewing community. And I think her blog is called 100 Acts of Sewing, and that's where the name comes from. I'm not a blog reader, I apologize. And her garments are easy fit and easy to sew and very size inclusive. And I've made the, I made tunic #1, right, you guys? Like last fall. It was one of the early things I made, so you can find the video. And then this time I'm going to make dress #2 right here. And I think I'm going to really like the fit of this one even more because it's got a set-in sleeve. And, you know, if I were to date anything in the sewing world, it would be a set-in sleeve. That says a lot about me. I really like set-in sleeves. And they're not as common in indie patterns as I would like to see. So I really love them. Oh gosh, you're talking about feta. No. I may have to make that a banned word. No, I'm just kidding. Which skirt have you made, World Peas? Does Sonia have a skirt? So just so you guys know, Beyond Measure is actually English, right? England-based. Sewing and supplies, really fun stuff. I met her at Edinburgh Yarn Festival. I do come from the knitting world as well. And yeah, I know, me too. I'm getting hungry too. Oh, you made the sleeveless dress. Yes, yes, yes. Yeah, awesome. She is hosting a sew along for July. And if any of you guys are interested in hopping on board, she's doing giveaways every week. There's prizes that are sponsored and everything, so you guys might check it out. It's pretty cool. Yeah, she's super sweet. Her name's Grace. I gave her a little pouch when I visited, just because, you know, when you see a fellow sewist at a knitting event, you say hi. I'm a knitter as well, don't get me wrong, but I will admit sewing is my first love. So, so this is the one I'm making. I might have the tunic #1 right here. Let's see. Oh yeah, here it is. See, so it's kind of hard to tell that this is more of a set-in sleeve than this one. Hi Siobhan, how's it going? But I've tried my friends on. You've seen her here. Maria from A Needle Runs Through It has stopped by, and we go on an annual retreat. And I got to try hers on, and I was like, oh yeah, this is how I want this to fit. Because this one is a straight cut armhole. It's not a set-in sleeve. It's more like akin to the pattern style of a kimono style pattern. I say that more because in the history of pattern drafting, that is what that silhouette is called. Oh really, Siobhan? It's a really great hobby to take with you everywhere. I love knitting for that. And you live somewhere cooler, right? Like on the East Coast. So it will work for you. I live in Hades, by the way. So it's really hot here. Today it's nice and cool. It's really, you know, knitting is amazing. If you're a sewer, knitting is really cool because you're basically sculpting the garment. And as a sewer and a pattern drafter, I find that really cool, really satisfying. So it is pretty neat, you know. It is slower, but you just block that out of your mind, like whatever, one stitch at a time, you know. It gets done, and it's, you know, if you put the time into it and it's something you like, you'll have it forever. So I think that's great. So this is what I'm going to make. I'm going to make it, I think, the second week in July. I'm going to do this. So let's see. There's not much more in here, so I can show you probably that gives you more insight into the differences. But you can do so many fun things with her patterns, and if you follow her Instagram, you know that, because she's very much about layers and fun fabrics and stuff. Yeah, exactly, Tracy. I feel the same way. You know, I love her stuff. It's just, I'm real, like the way that sleeve is and the way my upper back is, because my upper back is fuller. My posture makes my upper back fuller. That's what I'm finding. I'm trying to analyze why everything binds right here and like pools. It doesn't pool, it binds. And it's partly that. So that's awesome. Are you going to sew? Yeah, I am. I'm going to sew it on stream. Yeah, right, Joe Mama? Exactly. It is. It's like sculpting. It's pretty cool. You know, it's really, it's funny because some of the pattern drafting woes and knitting I find really interesting because they have a lot of issues with shoulder slope, and I don't know why. Like, all the information's out there, you know, but a lot of sweaters don't fit well through the shoulders, and that drives me crazy as a sewer. So, oh yeah, that's so awesome. So many grandmothers taught people how to crochet. I think that's so interesting. I love that. And then sometimes they go on to knitting just to try something new. All right, so I'm doing the 100 acts of sewing sew along with Beyond Measure just for fun, because I really like supporting Sonia Phillip. Here is my current needle sharp box. I get the it was called the heavyweight box, and now it's called the Sew Confident box, which that for me means, like, now I realize why she called it heavyweight. Is like the distinction between the boxes means that maybe more the sewing is a little bit more advanced. I don't think so though, but I don't know. I don't really know. The very first box I ever subscribed to, I liked this. It was a Charlie Caftan, and I wanted to sew that, so that's why I picked it, and I've just stuck with it. But when I'm not sponsored by this gal at all, but I get some questions about it. Yes, Eliza. For a larger bust, the 100 acts does fit well. I think I'm a medium in her size range to give you some perspective. And I'm a 38, 39. So, yeah, exactly, Joe Mama. Yeah. Yeah, like I was wearing my Calais shirt dress today, and it literally looks like a pillowcase on my backside. It's just like, it's just too much. And I was looking through my pattern drafting books the other day because I was looking for some ideas for pattern drafting streams. Like, what's the order that the pattern drafting book teaches a new pattern drafter? Because I thought maybe I should kind of go in a similar sequence. And then I got really caught up. I didn't even get into the book. I got really caught up in all the information prior to all the pattern drafting in the book. Because when you're in school, you don't really go over that. They just hand you the book and then get right into the lessons, you know? And so I thought it was really interesting. That book was probably written in the 70s, but she has some side silhouettes of postures and just like breaking down different types of body styles. And her language in there is so progressive and so on point to where we are today when talking about sizing. I really appreciated it because she talks about like standard and putting standard in quotes type stuff. And size inclusivity. It's pretty cool. I want to say that because I feel like designers get so much flack for not including sizing, but the thing is, they know, and they don't get a choice. Like, I never got a choice. I had to do what I was told, right? Yeah, exactly, Olivia. Yeah, it's a very loose, like I had tunic number 1, so it was very loose silhouette. It looks great from the front and when I'm down, but on the back, it binds under my armholes. So, it binds under my armholes and pulls on my back. So I just don't, it's just my upper back and my lower back, you know, I'm kind of swoopy right here, but not really, you know. So anyway, this is the So Confident box by Needle Sharp. It comes with everything. So you get a little bit about the fabric in here. There's also interfacing. So one of these is about the interfacing. There are all the notions, everything including your needle is included in the box. Every single thing. You literally can start sewing immediately after pre-washing your fabric. You don't have to go anywhere. So if you live somewhere rural and you don't have access to good garment fabrics, this is a really great option. And you'll also pick and sew things you probably wouldn't have picked before, which is great. She always has something like a helper page, either on fabric or a sewing technique. These are the culottes in my box this time. They look like a skirt, and that's why I kind of went for it, because I'm not a big fan of culottes, but I like that this just looks like a skirt. And you know what? I live somewhere so hot that anything that lets me not rub my thighs together and I don't have to wear something, I'm down for. So I know it's a little too much information, but when you live somewhere kind of hot, even if you're slender, it's an issue. So because anytime your skin touches it, it gets sweaty. I already pre-washed my fabric and I just threw it back in the box. This is kind of a crazy print for me. I am not gonna sugarcoat it. There's parrots on it. I'm not a parrot type of person. And I will be honest, I try not to actually, and this is gonna sound pretty out there, like pretty forward of me to say, but I don't usually buy any of the Anna Riffelbond fabrics because I have some issues when I was wholesaling it. I had some issues with how they set that up. So, but of the 3 culottes, this would look good for me and my coloring. I really kind of want to be adventurous, and this is the interfacing. And it'll be fun, right? Like with a nice little like I'm thinking like a white willow tank. I need to shut my door. I just realized my door was open. And I was wondering why it was so loud. There are toucans. I scrutinized this fabric on her website so closely because I was like, how big are the birds? I want to know. They're obvious. My mom really loves parrots, so I thought of her when I got this. So anyway, that's my box. Nancy gets a different box. One of you also gets her boxes. But you can swap, you can skip, you can swap. You get 3 fabric choices. And yeah, that's the kind of the gist. Just remember to pre-wash the fabrics. The only thing about that box I forget to do. Yeah, thanks, Joe Mama. I think like it's not something I would ever pick. Yeah, the red ones are parrots and the black ones are toucans. Yeah, I know. I think that pattern will be good. Right, Olivia? Like, I think it's like it's shorts but not shorts, and it's a skirt but not skirt. Culottes. I wonder what that word really means. It must be French. Okay, so onto my shirt, because I kind of have an ambitious amount of stuff I want to cover today. So the background on my shirt. I took the Monetta dress by Colette, and I took the bodice and I made a t-shirt out of it. And the reason I did that, yes, I can draft my own shirt from scratch, but the reason I did this is that a lot of people have made the Monetta. I've never made it on stream here, but a lot of people have made the Monetta, and at least it's like you know how it fits. It's like a good baseline, right? Yes, you did, right, Ruth? Is that what you did? I might try that. So you just top stitched all the way down your, look, I have mine right here. Here's mine. I love the way it looks from the front, but I did do the box pleat. So you just did that, huh? You just stitched it all the way down? And then I could just release it right there above my bum, huh? I might try that. You know what I'm thinking is that I would actually take out this whole piece here and put 2 princess lines and cut it out of this fabric. That's a lot of reworking, But I love the way this looks from the front, and I would really like to salvage it, you know? Like, I'm wearing it. I like it. It's really comfortable. I love the way it looks. It just is on my backside. It just doesn't look, it looks weird. I think just because my upper shoulders curve a little bit. It's not obvious. I had to really scrutinize my side view from the mirror, using my pattern drafting book to see my neck alignment with the center of my arm and down through my body. And that's what I decided. And it's just called an upright posture. So I'm probably going to need to turn my air conditioning on, huh? But then I have wind and I'm doing papers. So yeah, your side seam kicks forward, Eliza. That's right. You don't like that. And that pleat is going to definitely push it towards the front. Especially, yeah, like in your posture, you know, like just depends. Like we're all so different. I really look at people's postures because of one of the places I worked. The owner had a really interesting, the way his head sat on his shoulders was very forward like this. And it really distorted the fit of our samples, but usually the owner of a company considers themselves the perfect medium of their brand. No joke. That is why you will see similar fit issues across an entire line of clothing in a brand. Because that person started that company just like you or I would. They wanted to see something that fit them. It's like a totally altruistic motive, but then you grow because maybe with some of the other things in your line because of what you're making, and you have this continuous fit issue. So I'm not going to even hide it, but we actually started, when he got older, we started putting a different size tag in his samples so that he would approve them because he had gone up in a size and he wasn't admitting it. We did it for the good of the population. So, for the good of the customer. Terrible, huh? Okay. This is bad. Cleaning my glasses on my shirt. I cleaned them right before. I must have touched them 1,000 times. Okay, so I took the Moneta shirt, or bodice, and there is a video of that. I linked it in the description of this video, so when this one is done and posted, you will see that link to the first video where I took the Moneta dress and took the bodice and made it into a t-shirt. That's, you know, pretty. I kind of looked at my Monetas, and you should look at that video. Don't just do it without looking at that video, just because one thing to note about the Moneta is that the back is very scooped, the back neck. So just remember that. Or just remember that, you know, if you go to do that. And then I cut and sewed one for me. I'm pretty happy with it. I mean, yes, it is like, it's going up to my smallest part here, but not too bad. So I'm going to add a little bit of circumference right here. You haven't missed anything, Malin. We've just been chatting. Welcome. Wait, okay, yeah, so yeah, you're right, Eliza. Maybe we should, you know what, Eliza, we should pin ours. Pin down the pleat and then try it on. Also clean them that way. What do you mean? Clean what? Ida? Wait, what did I miss? Yeah, so, anywho. I decided that last second put my t-shirt on so you can see how it fits me. I'm pretty happy with it. I could get really picky about the fit of this thing, and I'm not going to. And that's just because I'm not making this for anybody but me. The glasses. Oh. I know. I clean them like that, but you know what? It does nothing. It just moves it all over the lens, you know? I have little wipes, and they're just over there, there, and there. Not right here, you know? And I am so terrible about touching my glasses, drop kicking them. I step on them, I drop them in my basket. I'm just awful. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to refine the fit of my shirt, and basically I think what I'm going to do is add a little bit right through here. I like the way this fits when I'm standing here, right? Hi Lisa, you're at work today. It's okay. I know, it's Thursday. I'm at work too, but I'm just stealing you guys all here. So this is, do you guys ever find this, like you put on your clothes and you look in the mirror and you're like, yeah, okay, I'm ready for the day. And then you sit down and you're like, oh, I don't really like that everything's bunching right here, or I don't really like that I'm having to do this, that, or the other thing. It's like, I really wish like your mirror could be in front of all the positions you're gonna be in for the day. Like, I'm fine like walking in the grocery store right now, but everything else, you know, I would really like, I want that slouchy pose, I want the sitting pose, you know? Yeah, right, Malin, exactly. You have some arms eye questions? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. This was pretty close fitting. Like I said, I could get really picky about the fit, and what I would probably do if I was getting a little picky, I would drop my armhole a little bit. I'm not going to, because here's the, right, Carol? Exactly, yeah. Here's the thing. This, contrary to what your instinct tells you, because my instinct tells me the same thing, the closer fitting sleeve, the more freedom of movement you have. So the way to look at your sleeve and your arm's eye is, if you don't want, like, you know how sometimes you feel like when you're lifting up your arm, it's pulling, you're pulling your fabric like this, and you feel like this, and your whole garment goes with you on wovens and knits. That's because the armhole is too low and too big. So it's, when it's closer fitting, you have more freedom of movement, right? Nothing is moving. It's why they do raglans in sportswear so often. They're not really the best fitting thing in other circumstances, and they're not really the best fitting thing or best freedom of movement for activewear, but they are in other, it's like the raglans are tricky. I won't go on a tangent about raglans. So, you usually don't work Thursdays, yeah. Yeah, I actually really like, I like it when people show themselves on Instagram wearing their garments sitting down, because people in wheelchairs want to see how it fits sitting down. You know, and a lot of them do sew for themselves because it's easier to get clothes to fit them if they make it themselves. I think about Sew Positivity. That's all she does is she makes all of her things. But I've seen her comment on people's posts saying, thank you for sitting with me and showing me how that fits, you know. And it's really important, right? You know, so anyway, I'm just going to make this a little bit looser along the bottom. And I'm going to do that twofold. I'm going to add a little so that it's not, like, this is fine and it's bunching up. It kind of holds my lumps, or covers up my lumps a little bit, you know, like when there's lots of wrinkles right here. At the same time, it's not the best fitting when it does that. You probably can't even see it as well in the camera, but it is pretty long, you know. So, and then I also want it to just be a little looser because of the lumps when I'm sitting down. Yeah, maybe, Eliza. Yeah, right, Louise, I know. Yeah, it's really helpful for them. Yeah, so, yeah, I could really go on about raglans because I did this whole thing for an outdoor company about them, but maybe I would really like to do some activewear at some point. I'm finding lately that one of the many excuses I'm giving myself to get active is the way my activewear fits. Yeah, I like the longer length too, Olivia. I do. But I would really like a little bit shorter, but I want it to hang a little bit away from my body, you know? Like, what I envisioned this fabric and this t-shirt for was to go under my Sew House 7 overalls. What are those called? Burnside bibs, you know? Yeah. Yeah, it is art gallery, isn't it? Pretty sure. Oh, this one, maybe. So anyway, and then the other version I'm going to make is, so the fabric I'm wearing right now is, I'm going to cover up the stripes so it doesn't do crazy things on the camera. But I got these interlocks. I'm pretty sure they're called interlocks in the fabric store. They're interlocks in my opinion. And this is the same thing. It's very stretchy, very soft, very great for babies' clothing and stuff like that. Yeah. It's out on the arm. Oh, yeah. I know what you mean. We sewed a pattern on stream that does that. I'm not going to mention it, but it bugs me. Yeah, you need to scoop it out right here. This is the back, but you need to scoop out the armhole, and then you're going to have to fill in the cap. But you need your sleeve to be almost symmetrical too. Yeah. Here, I'll show you a little bit in a few minutes, Milan. And then the other version, so I'm going to make a V-neck like this. Am I going to make a V-neck? Actually, I'm going to make a V-neck on the other one. Hello, Nancy! No seam rippers today, lady. Okay, and so this one right here, this is a hemp cotton jersey. It's really stretchy. There's got to be some lycra in there. It's super stretchy. This is from Blackbird Fabrics. I got these from my local fabric store, and I'm pretty sure someone identified that correctly as being Art Gallery. Yeah. I got it because quail. Can you see the little details on this fabric? That's really cute. I would never normally wear a print like this as a t-shirt, but I love quail. You're on your way to work. You're on your phone, speech text networks. Yeah, exactly. I don't know if you can post a pic. Can you? Oh, but you can on Facebook. On our Facebook. And if you're new here, we do have a group on Facebook called Sewists. But if you look up So Live on Facebook, you should find it. You have to ask permission, but they enabled accepting permissions on the app now, so I'm getting better at it. So I'm going to make a looser version of the shirt, more of like a regular old t-shirt. I may even do like a dropped sleeve armhole, which is like your classic t-shirt, you know, when you have the like, you know, graphic t-shirt that you buy at Target or wherever. I mean, you buy scoop neck tees there too, so I'm going to do two versions. I'm going to do this little interlock scoop neck tee with some adjustments. And then I'm going to do a drop shoulder boxy tee with a V-neck for other fabrics and for looser fits. So I do need to transfer my pattern to the manila. This is easier for me to work on. And I'm going to make my adjustments when I do that. So just so you know, I'm going to use some removable tape today because my current stapler is sucking for the multiple layers. So I'm gonna, okay, and this is my disclaimer about the pattern drafting that I do on here. I'm gonna show you how to draft patterns for yourself, for fun, for like quick and dirty, fairly accurate stuff. I'm not going to go into uber detail about doing this properly for the garment industry. And it's because you can really, we could bog ourselves down with that because I can be really, really accurate. And it's just would add a whole nother layer, and you don't need to worry about that. You're not making these for sale, and you're not making these, and no one's going to look at it. So just make sure that it sews well for you. So don't skimp on some of the details for yourself, but at the same time, don't bog yourself down with it. Like me using removable tape, taping this first pattern on my manila and transferring it is not what I would do if I were in the garment industry. I would do it a little differently. I'd do it on a computer too, but you know, I do like doing first patterns on the table. You know, it's just more satisfying. It's probably my age and when I learned how to do patterns. But I just really like seeing the scale of it. But you know, when you're working somewhere and you have a library of patterns, this is what they'll say to you. The people that don't know how to make patterns and they design the things, they will come to the pattern drafter and say, we would really like to do garment 219, but this time we want a shorter sleeve, a fuller hem, and center front pleats. Now, and then they show you the sketch, and as a pattern drafter, you just say, yes, okay. You don't have to use 219 to do that block, but just them picking that block, picking that garment as a block gives you an idea of what they're looking for in the fit, you know? So, and I'm not going to keep this paper pattern here. So I use see-through rulers. You'll see I have one marked with grain lines, and that's just a pet peeve that when I mark like Sharpie like this, I I gum up this ruler because watch, when I start doing things like this, like measuring, it leaves all this residue and it gets all over my hands. So, but I am going to use it because I'm going to do, also, I would never do pattern drafting with a Sharpie, but I'm going to do it for you guys so you could see. In fact, I might zoom this in a little. Would you guys like me to zoom it in? Let's zoom it in a little. Like that? That's a little better, huh? Yeah. Oh, you're on the patio having coffee. That sounds so nice. All right, so one thing I did before I got on was I measured myself at the same points. And I measured on the shirt. I'm like, okay, I'm putting my bust at this much below the armhole seam right here and what that measurement is. And then I did right here. And then I did my waist and I did the hem. And that's just to give me some pointer references. Because we're doing custom pattern drafting. It's really different than what we would do in the garment industry. Yeah, do you think that zoom looks better? It looks a little better to me. And I can make me smaller. Hi, Michelle, you're lurking. Awesome. That's how Twitch is, right? I like that in Twitch you can also have 2 streams going at once. It's kind of nice. I only figure out half the time how to do it, but you know. Okay, so I'm just going to start with my back, and this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to look at these measurements and be like, all right, my bust was measuring 40 inches. My bust measures more than I thought. So I learned something today. So this right here is 18¼ across. I know you can't probably see that. And then right here, without the seam allowance, same thing, 18¼ across, which is 36½. So right now, that gives you an idea. When I measure along this bust line right here, which is right here on this shirt, you're... Yeah, you're not the only one over there. The shirt, the sewn garment, measures 36½. I measure 40. So that gives you an idea of what negative ease is. It's about 4 inches, 3½ inches of negative ease, and you get this kind of fit. So you want some negative ease so it's close, but at the same time, you don't want it too negative. Otherwise, it starts going to the smallest spot, you know, creeping up there. This fabric's nice and stretchy. It does stay down. Oh, thanks, Joe Mom. I'm glad. I worked really hard on that, and I'm no camera expert. We can do this a little bit, too. So I just wanted to illustrate that this right here is measuring 36½, and I measure 40 along that spot. And along this rib cage here, let's see what we got. We have 8 5/8, and this is probably the same. It's about 8 3/4, so that's 16, 17, and 3/8, right? 17 3/4. Like, I can't do math in front of people. You're gonna learn that about me. So this right here is 8 5/8. I need a visual. Pretty good at it, but, oh yeah, so this is 8 5/8 as well. Okay, so that's 16, 17 1/4, so 34½. So my rib, 34½. When I measure it on me, it's 35, and that makes sense, because look, it's a little bit. Are you measuring yourself with just underclothes? Yeah, I measured me like you see me. Yeah. Oh, so you put the picture in the group? Okay, cool. Yes, absolutely, Tracy. It is fabric dependent to know what kind of negative ease you want. But I'm just giving you an idea. So we can figure out the percentage to give you an idea. You know what I mean? Oh, shoot. Okay. Let's say, so 36.5 divided by 40.9. So, you know, almost 10%. 10%. So if you subtract 10%, that might be a good place to start. Yeah. Yeah, Melina, I know what you're talking about, because what's happening is it's too small across your armhole, isn't it? Across your bicep. And if this seam is coming out to here, this is too wide up here. You're going to have to scoop it out and then fill back the sleeve in, which it seems like that's what your question is. So I'll look at that when we do our sleeve here without seeing the sleeve, you know. All right, and then the waist. The waist is probably going to be similar to the rib area for the difference, you know. So we have 8.5. I'm gonna assume this one's 8.5 as well, because these were, I used the Colette pattern. I don't normally make the front identical to the back, but sometimes it is. But you aren't, just so you know. Okay, so that's 34 inches, and my waist is 35. So this has about a ½ inch, and this is about an inch. Negative ease, not much, right? And then the hip, let's look at the hip. Is 9.5. I have 3/8 inch seam allowance. That's what I'm going by. So 9.5. So 1938. And my hip was 43.5 down there. So this was where it's stretching the most, you know? Yeah, exactly, Malin. Well, that's probably because it feels okay, because you're still getting fabric from the front helping you out, you know? But if you were to take that off, if you were to correct the front, you'd be short. And yeah, that sounds too narrow. That sounds like a weird sleeve pattern. Oops, that's the wrong way. Okay. So I'm going to loosen this up a little bit, because I would really like it to be, like, I like this, you guys, but I have, being honest with myself, when I'm sitting down and I'm more self-conscious about, you know, my soft bits than I probably let on, you know. So I would really like it to be a little looser. And you know what else I don't like? Here's my other pet peeve, is the bra bumps in the back. You know what I mean? So really what I would like to do, I'll show you, is I kind of want to swing out. I want to swing out my back like this a little bit, so that I get a little bit of width up here. You know what I mean? And what I can do, the amount I'm going to add down here is getting added by me swinging it out, but I might have to trim a little bit. So if I really want to add a little bit across, like between my shoulder blades there's not really a standard negative ease, Eliza. Definitely fabric dependent. And I will tell you, like, even in the garment industry, they may have to draft 3 patterns for the exact same t-shirt in the exact same pattern, because every run of knit that comes in shrinks differently and stretches differently no matter what. And that's when you start getting into like low end or higher end fabrics, because they'll say this is standard across every lot that we do. You can depend on the stretch and the shrinkage of this being the same, you know? Yeah, exactly, Malin. I know, I'm like, hey, this is really great. And then it's like lumpy on the back, even when I'm fit, you know? So I'm going to add a little bit right back here, just as an exercise. Let's see. Remember, this is on the fold, so I added about a ½ inch right there, not much. You could add more. You could add more. You could really kind of, you know, swing it out. There's a lot of ways to do this, but this would be probably the easiest way, especially for a beginner, is to, you know, you could really move it out there, but you're going to start getting into some funny fit issues. What I like about doing this is this doesn't change any of this. Changing this area gets you into other issues. You kind of want to leave, if this is fitting good, leave it alone, you know? It's easier to change this right here because it's just your trunk. It's just a 1 cylinder, whereas up here you have 2 cylinders that attach to each other. you know, so we'll just do this. Let's see how much we added down here. So we added about 2.5 inches just across the back hip. I'm actually kind of fine with that. It just means that my back is probably not going to be symmetrical or identical to my front, and that's okay. Remember, we're doing custom pattern drafting, not garment pattern drafting for the garment industry or mass production, right? This is custom. And really what I'm doing, Malin, is I'm trying to get some width up here. I needed width down there anyway, so that worked. If I didn't, what I would do then is just put this back over here. You know what I mean? I'm not going to swing out the front. I could. I mean, it's easier that way, right? Might as well. Exactly, Louise. What I'm doing is slash and spread. So I cut straight up the middle and then move it over here. Now, if you didn't want to add anything down here, then what you would do is, it's like you would have to cut here and then pivot back over. You know what I mean? No. This right here measures 1 1/4. So 2.5 across the back. I just added 2.5 across the back total. I haven't touched the front yet. I don't have to touch the front, right? Yeah, so right now, the front and back are they're not symmetrical to each other. Here's the front. But I could, you know? I want to add to the bottom there. I don't mind adding a little bit here. That's fine with me. Why not? I could just do that. Do the exact same thing. Because of how I'm wanting my extra, this is work. It's serendipitous, right? You know? I know, it's okay, Joe Mama. I kind of get it. Occasionally I'm like, wait, that's a typo, and I don't know what you're trying to say, but a lot of times I know. Yeah, no, I'm not doing 5 inches. I wouldn't mind 5 inches total, though, around the circumference on the bottom. I kind of want it to just hang and not have negative ease right here, but I don't want to lose this fit up here. I really like things to fit really well through the shoulders. It's definitely, I feel like when things fit through the shoulders, everything looks so much more flattering and fits you really well, you know? So I'm sticking with this up here. And I did pretty good, like from the Monetta. I changed the Monetta quite a bit up here, the scoop and stuff like that. And I had a Monetta dress to try on, you know, and I can check it out, you know, so. Exactly. As long as the side seams all sew together, it's okay. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Now we're getting into other things. So if you wanted, yeah, so you could, you know, like this would be the thing, right? You would, I have to think about this. Like doing it on camera when I didn't plan it, I didn't really plan, I will tell you guys, I didn't plan all this ahead of time, very detailed. I planned what I wanted to do, how many pieces of paper I had, because I really wanted you to see me work through this mentally. Yeah, there's probably, I'm sure there's tons of tutorials about doing some of this. But yeah, you could sit here, you could pivot it. You're gonna go up to your seam line. So if your seam is at 3/8 of an inch, stop there. You stop there, and then you have to cut here. Doesn't matter where. You just need a pivot point, and then you can pivot back. Voila. You just added a dart right there, but you added a little bit there. So then you would have to true this up right here. See? You cannot have this come at an angle at the center back. You must have a right angle here, unless you want your back to do this along the hem. Does that make sense? So you'd have to straighten this out. I'm not going to do this on this. I actually feel pretty good about the way the back is, probably because it's stretchy. You know? But yes, this is what's fun about pattern drafting, is that figuring out where to pivot things in and out. It's really interesting. Yeah, it is, Joe Mama, exactly. It is. I mean, it's funny because it makes sense in my head, and then when I go to show you guys, I'm like, okay, wait, am I explaining that right? And did I just pick the right method? Because sometimes I will be thinking of one thing and doing another, and then when I get to the sewing, I'm like, I know I just did that wrong, and I have to go back and fix it, you know, because there are little things you can be very clear, like, oh, this is what I want to do, and then you are like, this is gonna work, I figured it out, and then you did not realize you affected 2 other spots on your pattern without thinking about it. You know, and that's what you got to watch. So yeah, so I'm just gonna add straight through the back. But yeah, like on that, like Kelly, if you really wanted to pivot out that amount there, that's not going to do it. Like that wouldn't work on the Cali issue that we're having. We need to slim it through here going vertical, you know? And I think like her stitching down the darts or the pleat, Ruth's idea of stitching down the pleat is a great one. Leaving out the pleat completely, also a good thing, but then it gives you less room to release it for the booty. Oh, thanks, Joe Mama. I'm trying. I'm learning how to teach. I don't really know how to teach. And you know, it's funny because pattern drafting is very, really easy for me, and the spatial part's really easy for me. And I don't realize, I don't know why I know something, you know? Yeah, right, Nancy, exactly. The live thing's really good. So good, you can ask questions. And you know, I'll get my feet under me with the pattern drafting and maybe just do demonstrations for you guys that aren't on my garment. I'm just trying to figure out how to teach it. You know, so I'm just like, this is what I need, so this is what we're gonna do today. It's more than just a selfish thing. It's more of like, I really need to figure out how to do it. So, all right, so I'm gonna leave this here. I'm not gonna cut it out yet. We're gonna work on our front now. When you draft your pattern, I really like having it so that you have a whole side of your garment. So this is my right front and this is my right back, right? Yeah. As you're wearing it. You know what I mean? Oh, thanks, you guys. And it's you know, it's visually, it's really important to see how things work. So having the context of the visual with the verb, the words is really helpful, I think. You know, I'm a visual learner. I think most of us are, you know. All right, so let's tape this down. I didn't give myself much fat paper here today. So when you're a beginning pattern drafter, you do use these lines a lot. They're really helpful. When you see these lines on a store-bought pattern, they're really useful. More and more, especially on indie patterns, you don't see these guidelines where they put the bust. Doesn't mean, this is the thing about it, is like, I feel like, oh, I'm not gonna tape all this down because I'm gonna pivot. Just because a company says this is the bust line on here, doesn't mean it's your bust line. And the reason I say that is that you might be like, this company has no idea where the bust line is. But if you started looking at where all the companies put their bust line in relation to you, you might find that your bust is always an inch or an inch and a half higher or lower than that line on most companies. And it's not them, it's just how you're shaped, right? And so separating out like, oh, my body is this way, and it's a flaw, from this is just a guideline, you know? It's just a line on the pattern. Then you can kind of go, oh, I usually know my bust is better like right about here. This is where my bust line is. And if I'm going to alter it for my bust, this is where I'm going to focus. This is just a guideline. That's all it is. It means nothing other than how it relates to you. Not the world, but to you, you know? So just look at it like that and it's helpful. Like those lengthening and shortening lines are fine if that's what you're doing, but it doesn't tell you where that is on the body, on your body. So if you can identify your bust and your waist or whatever you're wanting to focus on your pattern, that's really helpful. And you know, yeah, right? Exactly. Yo, I just got my first mammogram today. I was like, wow. Yeah, exactly. You know, it's funny, Joe Mama, I've been like Like my hairstylist is always like, so are you still growing out your hair? I'm like, yeah, I'm really wanting it to go below my bust. And I'm like, I wish my bust would stop going lower so that my hair would get longer. You know? Yeah. Here's that eyelash, exactly. You know, and when I'm like in my pajamas, I'm like, well, shoot, I don't have a bra on. Then forget it. Like my hair's never gonna catch up. You know, so we're all honest here, right? All right, so let's swing this out. So I focused on what I added to the girth of this one based on what I wanted in my upper back, and then it just positively affected the areas that I really wanted to affect, right? But let me look at it like, okay, how much do I want to add if my pattern measures 36 and a half, my bust is 40, my ribs are about there, they're like a little bit bigger than that. Anything I add is going to be a little bit positive, right? So I think doing exactly what I did on the back, it'll keep my pattern, you know, I keep saying symmetrical. I don't want to say plumb, but do you know what I mean by plumb? So that the lines are kind of lining up still. They don't have to. It's just kind of nice that it did, you know? So we'll just make a line here for that 1 1/4. We're gonna make it kind of long like this. We don't need it that long. Can you see that? Here, sorry, I keep meaning to do it on my Sharpie. I'm already feeling like I'm breaking my rules because I only have a soft lead pencil right now. And I use hard lead pencils when I do pattern drafting. And I only do that so the point stays sharp longer. There's no other secret. People do it because they don't have to sharpen their pencil and the point stays more accurate. So the reason I did it long is like you never know where this is going to swing out and touch on there, so you just want to do that. All right, so I'm a little off my paper. I'm going to fudge. I'm going to fudge and go right there because, right, we're not doing this for someone else but me. I can do whatever I want, right? Okay. I'm using removable tape. That's why it's so easy. All right, and so let's, nope, I keep grabbing my pencil. Let's straighten out this back hem a little bit. And now I know that this is a pretty long shirt, so when I want to make another version, I can make it shorter, I can make it longer, but I kind of know where it's at. Oh, I just missed a comment way up there. You stitched down a similar pleat on your Thea Rochelle. Exactly. Didn't I do the same at the last second on that one? Oh, I did knit sleeves on that one, didn't I, Malin? Yeah. I just saw your Thea Rochelle way up there. Okay. So let's see here. I think we can probably cut this out. I didn't affect anything here. My sleeve can stay the same. That's great, right? All right, so now I will staple. I staple so that my paper is accurate. And yes, I do slam it because then it goes all the way through. Also, I like the full pattern, the full front, and I like the full back, and I like the full sleeve. I don't do anything on the fold. That's just my training, and it is really nice when you're going to cut out your fabric to have the full pattern piece. You can open up your fabric and kind of look at, if there's stripes, you can really make your stripes straight. It's just nice. I always cut off my straight bits first. And you know, I'm going to cut out my front first, and then I'm going to make sure that all my seams still line up to the back. I angle my scissors a little bit so that the bottom layer gets cut. Now you can see there's like a little bit of there's a right angle right here. That's pretty. We like that. And the reason we like that is because when you put your underarm seam together right here, you want a nice smooth curve. Anytime you see those armholes that do this, there's no point to that, because if this one did the same thing, you're not going to put your sleeve in like this, right? I don't know why people do that. It's going to get cut off, so don't put it in there to begin with. Okay? It's because people are not getting their sleeve pattern drafting down pat. It's worth putting the time in to figure out. I have a little bit of shape at my hem so that it isn't too long when I go to hem it. I might smooth this out a little bit as I cut it. And then I look at the back to see how it did. It's easy to not be able to see like what you actually did when you look at your paper. It kind of skews your eye, you know. Yeah, you can use a lot of these techniques directly onto woven fabrics. Absolutely. Oh yeah, they're paper cutting scissors. They're pattern paper cutting scissors. They have a really short blade so you can maneuver them. I've had them since college, since 1989. I love them. So yeah, I angle my blade like this so that this blade is cutting the bottom layer straight up on top of the other one. That's why I do that. And the reason you use these is also, I need another staple right there. Oh, see, I used to have the best stapler. I need a new one. So what I try to do is I don't move the scissors. I just move the paper. I bring the paper to my scissors. If that makes sense. And I don't go like this. I go like this. Yeah. You do. What do? You do that because it's like adding a built-in gusset. Oh, you mean the little point? I see. The thing is, when you put your sleeve in there, it's going to get trimmed off though. You can add a gusset there if you like. And I'll show you a way to do that. It's great on wovens. It's called a lift. You don't have to change the armhole though. You can just change the sleeve. It works really great. And every time I mention it to my friends, they're like, you need to teach me how to do that. All right, I'm gonna take my pattern off here. Actually, you know what I'm gonna do first? This is my tracing wheel. You'll see me use this. We're gonna do, it's really sharp. Can you see that? Someday when we're gonna do how to copy one of your favorite garments, and this is what you need. It's not the kind you can buy at Joann Fabrics. You want one with these points so that when you go over your paper or through your fabric onto the paper, it transfers little holes and then you can see it. It's like perforating it without hurting anything. But I'm gonna do this right here for my bust line and my rib and my waist. Just so I have that as a reference, I'm gonna mark it here and I'm gonna go straight across because this dropped. It went that way. This part didn't change. That is still that point down from my armhole. Added the corner. Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it would do that though. I know what you mean. You could add it instead to the sleeve. Yeah, cowboy spurs, totally. They are kind of like spurs. All right, so I can see my little perforated lines right here. I'm just gonna do that because, you know, if I ever wanna use this pattern to draft something else, I don't wanna have to figure that out again, and I know what I was going by at the time. So I'm going straight across. We'll do a stream eventually on like moving your dart so that it fits you better. Oh yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, reshaping the sleeve, exactly. Yeah, I would totally do the same. I call it a lift. I saw it in my pattern drafting book once and I was like, what the heck? I didn't learn that in school. Like 20 years ago, I was like, huh, I'm gonna try that. So I'm gonna label this my scoop neck tee. It's size Cerame. This is the center front and I cut 1. Don't ever assume you're going to remember why you put something on a pattern. At least for me. I'm not gonna go, I don't need, because I used to do that. I'd be like so cavalier, like, oh, I'll never forget that. And then like, you know, 2 months from now, I'd be like, what, why did I do that again? I am so, why store it in the hard drive, you know? Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it totally works. I know what you mean. Yeah, because you can add it right here. You can add it right here to the sleeve. It works great because then you can lift your arms up and only the sleeve comes up. I totally agree. It's awesome. All right, so let's use our front to make our back. So first I'm going to look at the seam line because when we lay it on the sewing machine to sew it together, this is what we're going to do, right? We're going to lay it right on top of itself and sew it. But when it's done and it's open and on the body, it's going to do, so I did a 3/4 inch line because this has 3/8 of an inch and this has 3/8 of an inch. And when you overlap them, that's a 3/4 of an inch. So now I look at my juncture there. It's a nice smooth curve. And then I'm going to look at my juncture here. I'm going to line it up on the seam line and the hem line. Because see, here's my hem line. Here's my hem line. You want to do the intersection of them. I never sketch things in like that. I don't know why I'm doing that. There we go. So I can see this intersection here. You want to make sure that line, when it's lined up here, intersects with this. It's going to intersect about right there, like that. See? Now see how there's more of like a point right here? We don't want that. We want to maybe round it off a little bit. So I'm going to start about right here. And then I'm going to fix it. Shoot, I keep moving that. Like that. Oh, bye, Ida. See you later. Thanks for coming. Yeah. Okay. Because you want your right angle at your seam, because otherwise you're going to get a point right here, you know, at the side seam. So you don't want it to do this, because when you turn it up to hem it, you're going to have a point and you're going to have to trim that off anyway. Hey, Kara, how's it going? Yeah, exactly, Joe Mama. Exactly. Yeah, you have to compensate for the seam line. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. That's cool. I'm glad you know that trick. It's so great. It works so good. Okay, so we want this juncture here. That's my front. We kind of want, you know, we definitely want more of a right angle. And so what I do is I do this. I kind of start it about here. Kind of blend it in. And it's the same here. I'm going to look at the, I'm going to put my right angle to the seam line. Don't worry about this shape right there. I kind of missed some of it then. I didn't really change the overall length. That would happen anyway if you sewed it without doing it. You know what I mean? Because when you go to hem it and you've turned up the fabric, it would look like a point at the seam line. Here's your fold of your hem, right at the bottom of your garment. You turn it up, you've put your seam together. You've seen that before. I know you all have seen that before. And you're like, do I go like this when I do my hem? No, you always trim it off, right? So you've lost it anyway. You might as well just trim it off now. It makes your sewing less questioning, like you don't question as much. It's nice and smooth, looks nicer. You look like a pro. I see it in patterns all the time that they don't do that. I don't understand. I think it's okay to be like, this is good enough in your sewing, but not in your pattern drafting. All right, so we're going to, I feel like I just lost my center back. I could tell it didn't look square right here. You don't really want to point. You'll just trim that off too. You know what I mean, jelly beans? All right, so here's how you do this hem shape. So I have a 3/4 inch hem. That's my preference right here. So there's my hem, right? Now when it folds up to that, if it's not a right angle, you need to trim off a little bit, but it actually is now, so we don't have to worry about it. But if I turned this up and say this was folded up and this little piece was poking out like that, you would trim that off, and then it would have a little bit of a taper right here, right? If this went in and when you turned it up you needed to add, you would do it right here, you know, like this went out actually. If this went out like this, you know, does that make sense? I'm describing that I'm explaining that kind of badly right now. Just depends on what your hem is. But you look at it as if it's folded. Your juncture should almost always be at a right angle. I don't generally use Sharpie for my pattern drafting. Oh, I need to look at my, I want to make sure my shoulders still work. I didn't change anything today, but you never know. Maybe I made a mistake the first time I was drafting. So I'm going to overlap this 3/4, which is 3/8 on each. I'll show you. So this is the seam allowance on this one, right here. This is the seam allowance on this one. And if you were to line this seam up with that, like you sewed it, it would be 3/4 inch. That's how I do that. So you just want this nice, smooth intersection. It's okay if this comes out a little bit. Yeah, you could add this to fill it in, but that's not as critical. It is nice though. If it makes it hard to cut for the cutter, then you wouldn't do that, you know? That's not bad. You don't want to start whittling your pattern down more and more just to get those right angles. You got to be careful where you do it. You might have to add back. Okay, so now we have our front and our back, kind of our scoop neck tee block. Kind of. If it were an actual block, it probably wouldn't have seam allowance on it. Sometimes. And I'm going to toss this so I don't get confused. It's just the smartest thing to do. I know it seems hard to do sometimes, but you just got to, because remember we swung it out and we've trimmed off the hem now. Just get rid of it. Otherwise, it might come back to haunt you. So these are those lines that I added. This is not the best way to get a right angle using a see-through, but it's pretty good. You know, like on the fold, there's definitely some room for error. That's my pattern, right? So I'm not worried about it too much. Okay, so let's see. This was the scoop neck tee, size Sarami, center back, cut 1. And then we're gonna write 3/8 inch seams, 3/4 inch hem. This is a gift to future Sarami. If I were making this for a small factory, but still someone that was reproducing it, I would actually do this. I would draw it in like this. Having the visual is so nice. I would write 3/8, 3/8, and I would do it here, 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 and here for the hem. I don't need to do it here because here takes care of that spot and here takes care of that spot. I don't need to do it there because it's taken care of there. You know what I mean? I don't even need to do it on the back, but I would in the same spots just to reiterate, just in case they see the back and not the front. All right, so let's, I'm not going to make a V-neck of this in this fabrication. I'm gonna make it in the other one. So I'm gonna set this aside for a second. And I'm gonna set this, I'm actually gonna set this aside. And you there. And I'm gonna make my T, my sleeve. Paper does have a grain line. Folds nicer on one. Sleeves are generally not symmetrical. Let's see if this one is. I copied it from the Moneta. I can't remember. There's a few different rules. So it is symmetrical. It doesn't even need this front and back notch at all. I didn't put it on there yet anyway, so that works. The only reason it's going to be helpful is to determine when you're sitting at your sewing machine which one's the front and which one's the back. But I do have the fact that my neck is a lower scoop than my back neck, which is a nice clear-cut indicator. I don't need anything further, but if you do like something that tells you what's the front and what's the back, you only need to mark one of them as long as you remind yourself, I've only marked the front, and the front has a single notch, you know what I mean? So you don't have to worry about that. And you would probably want to do single notch for your front and a double notch for your back. Oh, hello, Pam. How's it going? Yay, you joined in the fun. We're kind of talking serious pattern talk, but it's still fun. All right, so let's see. Let's transfer our sleeve here. I'm going to lay it right on the fold. I'm not going to change anything about this sleeve except make a long sleeve version. And I'm going to get rid of my notches. I might leave this one. Okay, so this sleeve pattern is generally your notch at the top is 1/4 of an inch forward of the center. Forward meaning towards the front. Because the human body, the way that we are shaped, generally the front is a tad smaller across here, and you tilt forward. I'm exaggerating it, but that's, you know, you're doing this. And so what they do is they make this area shorter because it's going to go towards the front, and the front is usually scooped out right here on a woven shirt sleeve. When you get into the knits, you see a few different things happen, and I would just go with how it fits. But there are some, you know, you're going to follow some of the basic rules, you know. It's okay if your sleeve is symmetrical and that there's no distinct front or back, or that you have that little indication of, you know, that little, like smaller front than the back. Knits are so forgiving with the stretch, and because sometimes they're looser, you know, it just depends on how you're doing it, right? Oh, you just got home from your knitting group? Sewing and knitting. I like the switch. It's nice. I do miss like knitting group, going to a knitting group. You don't see that as much in sewing, you know. My local fabric store does have stuff like that, but since I sew on the industrial, I don't know, I'm kind of a baby about sewing on my home machine. All right, so I'm just gonna check a few things on my sleeve before I just cut it out blindly. I'm gonna check that my hem is straight, that it's perpendicular to the grain line right there. So here's a good example. Like, this is not at a right angle right there. So Malin, if you needed to scoop out your front armhole of your shirt, whatever the shirt that is, and your cap is more like this, like it's like narrow. Can you see that? You're gonna do that. You kind of do want a fuller cap right here. I can't just throw out numbers for you, sorry, because there's just too many variables. There's just way too many variables. But that's what I would start. I would scoop, whatever you scoop out on your front, make sure you don't need to do it on the back. It may be less obvious. But if you're doing them symmetrically, it'll be a lot more, it'll be better. Hopefully. Hopefully that it's clear cut that way. And then just add that same amount to your sleeve cap right there. Start there and see what you think. Because you need a certain amount across your bicep here. This is the thing about a sleeve. Your sleeve right here is sewn in a circle, right? But right here, it's going across this part here. You need a lot more than people think. Now, if you really need to add some fullness there, but you have a little bit, if there's no ease on your sleeve, like when you measure this seam line, Malin, if you measure this seam line and you measure your armhole and there's no ease, like there's no extra sleeve, slash and spread your sleeve. You can go up to 1.5 inches longer on your sleeve to your armhole. It'll only fit better. 1.5 inches is, I know it's a lot to ease in. People get really nervous about that. But you guys are pros now, right? We've gone over how to set in a sleeve over and over, and we have our little tip. Yeah, so there you go. So check the seam line. If it's the same, slash down the middle of your sleeve to your hem line, and then slash up here so you have a pivot, and open it up, and then try and smooth that out, and add that in there as well. Now measure your armhole line, measure your armhole, measure your seam line on both, see where it's at. Now you can always trim a little here or add a little here. That's okay. You just don't want to put it all there. It won't put it in the right place. You need it up here because remember, this right here is a continuation of this right here. So this area here of your body, right? This is, so this is what you're trying to fit, right? This is one perimeter you're fitting. And then this is the other perimeter, right, around your arm. Two different. It's called a bifurcated pattern, and that's why. That's why they're so hard to fit. So think of it that way. This right here, you know, is the continuation of this amount right here. You know? I actually have that. Oh, sorry, I have that upside down. So this right here is this whole area up here. Yeah, and if you have large arms or shoulders, good, I'm glad you can see. That's awesome. Because the bodice might be okay, you just may need to just really mess around with that sleeve, you know? But try not to, this is for all of you, try not to get confused trying to think about the sleeve. Don't get overwhelmed. Break it down, right? Even if you have to like draw a line across this and be like, all right, this is this part. All this down here of your sleeve is only going around here, right? It just connects to this up here, you know? So, yeah, and so when I see sleeves with 0 ease, I sewed one of those, and every time I do this, the whole sleeve goes like this. And the whole garment comes up. The whole garment comes up. So, yeah, that's a problem. No comment. Okay, so I'm gonna go for this. So let's I'll show you how to measure a sleeve though. Let's measure it and see. All right, so this is, I like these because you can measure on the curve. So I measure it on the seam line, not the cut edge, right? So I get 8 3/4 plus. Plus is a 1/16 of an inch. I know my 8ths, I don't know my 16ths when they're added to other things. And this one is 8 7/8. Okay. So they are almost identical. If I'd cut a little more accurately, I would have lost that 1/16 of an inch or gained it on one. So they are identical for the most part, right? So let's measure this and see how it measures. I don't remember us having to fight with this at all. Yeah, it's identical. So the sleeve armhole is the same as the sleeve. All right. So when you have an identical sleeve, cut it on the fold. And let's just see how good my cutting is, or how good my original pattern was. We'll cut it on the fold and see how I line up on the other side. I'm a little, go metric, right? Exactly. I agree, I agree. I really wish I had hard lead pencil. Cricket went to get me some today. I sent her, I said, will you get me some pencils and you can buy yourself something at the art store? That's all she likes doing right now. Fractions are annoying. So true. So right here, the fact that this isn't a right angle, it's not great. You know, like I would actually really like to make this more of a right angle, but then I will lose a little bit, kind of like Joe Mama's saying, of my, I'm gonna lose a little of my underarm. So I don't really want to lose that too much, but I could. Let's see if we could do a little bit more of a right angle. Something like that, and then I could drop it like that. I'm not going to. It's knit, it's pretty forgiving. It's not like you're gonna chop this off so much. You're gonna chop a little bit of it off though. Maybe we can go like this. I'm gonna make this a little wider there. Now I can't do this, the right angle going like this, because then I would be chopping off my length of my sleeve armhole line, right? You have to remember where you're adjusting it. So if I wanted to make this a right angle going this way, I'd have to go out this way, go out with the hem. Because I can't change this seam line right here, the length of it. The length of the sleeve armhole line is really important when you get into the nitty-gritty of the sizing and the way it sews to the other piece. So if you want to add it here, because this is going to get a little bit trimmed off. You know? You could trim it this way as long as you're not affecting your seam line. I'm just going to do a tiny bit though, just like I added right there. Okay, so this sleeve has the shape. Here's my 3/4 of an inch hem. And this is how I figured it out. Can you guys see this line right here? Probably not. Here. So here's my new seam line, or cut line, sorry. Here's my new cut line right here. Here is my hem allowance, okay? That's my finished sleeve. Well, except for here's my seam line, right? Which I don't really need that right now. I kind of do. So what you're gonna do is measure up onto here the same amount as your hem, which is right there, okay? That is where this is gonna fold up to, okay? So if I were folding up this hem, it would meet that right there, okay? And now what you do is you draw a perpendicular line. You don't have to draw the line, but you're going to take that little point and you're going to transfer it down here. So you line it up along this hemline, your line's on your ruler. See that point there, and I know that point is right here. And that is your new shape of your hem. That makes sense? Took me a while to figure those out. I remember when I was learning it. All right. How'd I do? Oh, see, look. See how I did? Not too bad. It's a little bit lower here. The paper was lower on that side. Not too bad though. This is just like a where the paper got folded. So my original was okay, you know. I'm gonna get rid of that. Here is my sleeve. Yeah, that's how they get those hem shapes, and you need them. You absolutely need them, because anytime you guys fold up a hem and it doesn't have that, but the skirt, say the skirt tapers going up, then you have either too much hem, or if it tapers going down, you have too little hem. And then when you fold the hem up and the hem, like that line, this right here, if this line doesn't measure the same as where it's going to attach, you're going to have an issue either way, right? And if it's short, it's the worst, because what happens is and you force it on there, it's going to draw in your skirt and look all puckery, right? It's better that it be longer than anything else, because then you can kind of pleat your hem as you go. You've seen that. You sometimes have to, especially on those really curved hems of skirts and stuff like that, you know, or shirts too. All right, so let's label it. Size Army. This is pretty much a cap sleeve, cut to. It could be a little shorter. You could do a little shape like this and it'd be even more of a cap, you know, because it's just on your sleeve cap. But I'm gonna call it a cap sleeve for me, my own. All right, so now we have our block, and now we can just, like, that's all the hard part. That's the time-consuming part. Now we get to make our variations. So we'll make a long sleeve. And we just use this to trace around. That's why I like the manila. And it's no longer a virgin pattern. I don't really need that hem shape, so I just left it off. We're gonna guess at the length. This is one thing, you know, because I'm just kind of making it right now. It may be a little different when I go to do it. So when you're doing sleeve lengths, the most accurate way to do a sleeve length is to find your center back neck. Don't do this on yourself. And then you want to do it with your arm outstretched to where you want it. And the reason I tell you this is because this measurement here can be different on every garment, right? And same with where this line is. And so, but if you put it all together, from your center back neck down to your sleeve hem, it doesn't matter where this line is. So in other words, if you know where this line is on you, like I do know where this line is because I'm wearing the shirt right now and the cap kind of comes up onto my cap, I can kind of figure it out a little easier, right? So let's see, 21 and a half, okay? But say you are talking to someone over the phone that you're making something for, or you don't know the pattern or whatever, you do a center back neck sleeve length. Then that way it doesn't matter what this measures, where this measures, where this line is. You know that if you say, oh hey, it's a 33-inch center back neck to sleeve hem, it doesn't matter where that line is. So then you just measure, okay, here we go, that's 7, and then you come over here, put your seam allowance, and then you go down to your sleeve length. That makes sense. It's the most accurate way to do it. I always provide those. Because otherwise, if you were talking over the phone, you're like, oh, the sleeve is 8 inches long, and they're measuring from here when you measured from up here. Or say it's a drop shoulder, you know? That's not, that cap is not in the same place. So it just depends on where, you know, where those lines are, you know? Yeah, so. Okay, so what did I say? I want 21 and a half. So I'll make it a little longer than that so that I can always trim off of the fabric and then just make a note to myself, hey, once you make this into a long sleeve, come back and edit the pattern so that you don't have to cut extra. Like, you know, we all kind of cut it close with fabric sometimes and you know exactly how much to get. So this is 18. 21.5 is right here. Oh, shoot. I don't have much paper. I'll have to tape it on there. 21.5. Or let's just make sure. Let's just see. Maybe I can get away with doing a little bit less. And see, the reason I do it outstretched too is because when you're actually what you really want is, it's nice when you can do it on your bent arm like this, because your arm is longer when you bend your arms, you know? So it is kind of nice if you add that little bit of extra for yourself, so that when you're doing this, your sleeves aren't up to here when you wanted a long sleeve shirt. 3/4 sleeves are great, but you need to build it in there, and you need, the hem circumference needs to work for that. So if you make your sleeve for when you're just standing there, but you're going to be doing this all day, because we do, right? You'll want that little bit extra, because this hem circumference is a different hem circumference than up here. It'll just get stuck, and then we're doing this all day. We all know this because when our pants get hung up on our calves, that's annoying, and it's the same with our hems there. So let's see. Let's see if this will be enough. Yeah, that'll be okay. Here's another thing I would never do in the garment industry. I would never tape pattern paper together, except on rough patterns. I do this so that I can get the fold in the same spot, like this. Yeah, with bent elbow. I know, I was kind of misspeaking there at first. It's like, you know like when you did something a lot for a long time, over and over and over again, and it was just really natural and normal to do that, and then you don't do it for 15 years. And then you're like, wait, I had a method for this. That's what I just did. Because I used to work in the outerwear industry. You always measure your sleeves bent, and you always do center back neck. I don't think this is going to be long enough, but we'll see. I was like, wait, this isn't right. Something sounded wrong about that. Oh yeah, we bend our arms. If you have to piece your paper together and you're using this like stout paper like I am, just tape it well. Make it become one with your paper. See, now it folds pretty nicely. You know. All right, so we're gonna do a 24-inch sleeve. It sounds about right. I feel like that kind of rings true for me. So it sounds like a little long, and that's okay. I don't mind doing a little bit extra. I probably won't make a whole lot of long sleeve scoop neck tees, but they are kind of nice for underneath, you know, like that plaid you wear in the winter or whatever. Usually hems are about 9 inches. So let's see what 9 inches looks like on me, you know. This is a very standard amount. Knits are about 8.5 usually. So that's about 9 right there. Let's see what 8.5 is like. It does make a big difference, that 1/2 inch sometimes. Let's see. I just remember those measurements, some of those measurements. Some of them I'm like, what's this measurement again? I like that a little better. Because when it's knit, it feels a lot looser. And remember, it's going to kind of slip down here a little bit. If any of you have bought Patagonia, you know how big their, how long their sleeves are. It's where they had a gorilla doing their patterns there for a while or something. They were so long. All right, so this is my hem length and width. That's that little juncture right there. And now I'm gonna go up here. I'm gonna look for my juncture right here. I'm gonna draw my line from this intersection of my seam lines down to that line right there. You can curve it in, but just make sure you do this first. Add my 3/4 inch seam or hem. And I think I will kind of, I'm just gonna gently scoop in a little bit here. An ambiguous amount. And now, wait a second. Yeah, let's do that a little better right there. Oopsie. You have long sleeve tees, yeah. Unnaturally long. Do you like it that way, Louise? Okay, remember, I did this from the seam line. I still need to add my seam allowance. When you're first doing your pattern, it's good to focus on the actual measurements and then add your seam allowances after. It's a little less confusing and a little more accurate too. Thinking in terms, including the seam allowance, can lead to some inaccuracies, but it's okay, you can do that. I do it all the time. Certain things though, if I'm kind of drafting it on the fly, I'll take off the seam allowance and then add it afterward. So right here, I'm gonna add the seam allowance now, which is just a 3/8 inch. I'm gonna blend it with that right there, right? Now, if you start getting confused, just make sure you X out the line. So when you start coming across with your scissors, you don't accidentally grab the wrong line there. All right, now let's add this hem shape, remember? Because this line is gonna fold up to right here, right? So if I didn't add anything like here, I didn't add this little like angle right here, it would be too short when it got up here. It would end up right here, and you would have to stretch that edge, which would do something weird to your sleeve shape. So this is how you do it. I did that little 3/4 inch mark right there, so now I know this point needs to match up to that point there. So I just go straight down. That's it, and then I just draw my line from the fold line down to the cut line. It just takes kind of getting the hang of that to get the logic behind it. It's very logical, but at the same time, it kind of fights with you. Yeah, you could shorten it. You know, if it's a knit, you could just cut it, see how you like it. Just leave enough for a hem allowance, and then if you like the rolled look, you could leave it rolled because it won't fray. Knits kind of just roll kind of fun sometimes. And hey, it's done. All right, so now I have my long sleeve. I wasn't going to do it for my scoop neck, but oh well. I actually kind of know I'll get some use out of this when it's closer fitting. It's nice. Oops. Gotta carry away with my C's and O's there. Long sleeve, cut 2, 3/8 inch seams, 3/4 inch hem. Nice and clear for future ceremony, right? Always making sure. And then you need, I keep forgetting to put my grain lines on things. Wow. Okay, so you need your grain line. On a sleeve, it's always down the center. Always. Always, always, always. It is dead useful. If your garment is on the fold and it's symmetrical, it's always down the center. Always, always, always. Always, always, always. If you come across a company that doesn't do that, I don't know what to say. But if it's like an open front, like a button down or something like that, then you can put it wherever you like. As long as it's parallel to the center front, you know? All right. Okay, so let's make these into a looser fitting tee. I have a punch that puts a big old fat hole because I use these pattern hooks. You don't have to do that though. You can just use, you can cut a little triangle in your pattern pieces and then loop a piece of ribbon through or whatever. You don't have to get all fancy and buy a $60 hole punch and pattern hooks. I just have them from doing it for so long. Okay. So I haven't really thought this through, so let's figure this out together. I'm gonna make my fold a little better, a little crisper. I'm gonna start with the back. Doesn't matter, you can start with the front or the back, just depends on what you are working on. And what's easier for you. Sometimes if you're doing like all the fun stuff you want to, like there's some style lines or something that you really want to get to, you can totally start with the fun part, right? So I just like sometimes starting with the back, getting it out of the way, and then carrying over to the front what I'm going to be doing. So first I'm going to trace off my scoop neck tee. And so I'm going to make this scoop neck tee into more of like a boxy style t-shirt. You know, the kind that we all wear. I call it a guy's style, and this is a gal style to be kind of gender specific, which I don't mean to be. Just more like if you were ordering a t-shirt and they have women's versions and men's versions. The women's versions are usually closer fitting, fit better, right? They're not boxy or square. So it just depends on how you like your t-shirt to fit. I think there's reasons for both. But you know, like a graphic tee would be more in line with the style I'm about to draft. But I'm not going to go full on boxy style because that looks really bad on me. It's just I'm too busty, and I just really like some shape. I feel like the closer to my shape something is, the more flattering it is. But it doesn't have to be tight. It's a little more flattering when it just kind of skims the body, right? You guys are so quiet. You guys are still here, right? I just realized I feel like I'm talking to myself. It just cracks me up. All of a sudden you guys are like, okay, this is too boring. All this pattern drafting. Why did we ask for this? Okay, so I'm just going to trace off my back. Set it aside. And then I'm going to think about how I want this to fit. So I'm going to make my armhole bigger. I'm going to make the shirt in general a little bigger, and I'm going to make it shorter. And I'm going to drop the sleeve cap down. So I'm going to kind of do a lot. You're still here. Thanks, Carol. You're glued to every word. Oh, God. That makes me nervous. I told you guys I'm not doing garment industry pattern drafting, right? We're just going to do custom stuff. So I'm going to start up here, and if you have a scoop neck tee at home that you kind of like the fit of, and you have a boxy style t-shirt, it's really interesting if you put them on one after the other, and you can kind of see where this line drops down. So the t-shirt style sleeve is more akin to looking like this, right? Whereas this one has the swoop of the cap. So what we're doing is getting rid of some of this cap. So if we're dropping down the armhole onto here, right, we can chop off the cap. Does that make sense? Concentrating quietly. Hello, Thea. How's it going? Oh, I love, thanks you guys. Thanks for all saying you're still here. Oh, you're just getting to work. Oh, I know the new closet case patterns are fun. I like those pants. I love having my patterns folded in half, Olivia. I like having the whole thing. Okay, good, good, good. I'm glad you guys are still here. Thank you. Okay, so yeah, if you're going to drop your cap, and the reason they do that is just more of like a looser fit, right? It's just a looser, more relaxed fit. But I am the first to say that it doesn't fit that great. Okay, good, Ruth. I'm glad. Thanks, you guys. You know, it's like you really need it to be loose so that it's, you know, not, because it's not the most fitted thing. So it has to, like, wait, how do I put this? The lines are so straight that you're gonna have to make it looser because there's no curves, right? There's none of this shaping. Curves mean shaping, even on a sleeve, right? So you need that. So if you're going to flatten out the sleeve cap, you're gonna have to increase the armhole. So let's see. This one kind of comes up a little bit. It's like right here on my top of my cap. It is definitely fitted, right? So let's just drop it down 2 inches. I'm just gonna go right up against the seam line. I'm gonna draft this with the seam allowances built in. So let's see, we'll add our 2 inches here. I'm gonna keep it at a right angle to the seam line. Remember, here's my seam line. Okay, so here, we'll make this a little more visible. That's my shoulder cut line. Here's my shoulder seam line, right? And then I'm gonna do 2 inches. I'm gonna do it perpendicular to this line here, the seam line, at that juncture. Okay? You're gonna blend into this armhole. Okay? I have a French curve around here somewhere, but I don't know where it's at. I wouldn't use a French curve really for this armhole because it's kind of flat, you know. I'm not very good with doing with Sharpie. I got a brand new one now, but I'm still not that great with it. Sorry. So let's make this armhole a little bit bigger too. Let's just, okay, so here's the deal with adding circumference, okay? I've talked a lot about this. I talk a lot about this when you're trying to sew. Keeping your seam allowances accurate is really important. And I feel like when I say things like that, I sound very old school home ec teacher-ish, you know, like it's proper. But you guys, if you guys have been here, you guys know I'm not always proper about everything, how I sew it. But seam allowances are really important because they add up, especially if you're doing something with like vertical seams like princess lines, right? So if you are to add 3 inches in circumference, which, you know, that takes away almost all of my negative ease. So maybe I want to go a little bit more. So let's say we're going to add, I don't know if I want to add 5. I think I'm going to say 3 inches. I'm going to get rid of my negative ease because it's going to feel a lot looser, right? Because it's a knit. We're working with knits. So if I'm going to add 3 inches, you're going to divide that by the number of seams and on the seam on each piece. So you have 2 on the back and 2 on the front. So you're going to divide 3 inches by 4, okay? Or however you do your metric as well. Where's my phone? Because it's impossible for me to do math in front of people, do on my calculator. So 3 divided by 4 is 3/4 of an inch. I knew that, but I just want to show you guys. So if I add this 3/4 of an inch right here, that's going to give me 3 inches extra all the way around. And the reason why I'm stressing this is why, like, if you have a garment that's 5/8 inch seam allowance, but you're missing your seam allowance and you're sewing it at 1/2 inch or 3/8, or, you know, 1/2 inch on the front and 3/8 on the back pieces or whatever, those little bits that are off really add up, and you can end up being 1.5 inches off in total circumference like that. And then you're like, gosh darn it, this pattern company isn't fitting me. They lied. They said it would be a 35 and it's only fitting a 33.5. That's why, you know. So those kinds of things are really important to remember, that these seams, there's 2 on the back and 2 on the front, you know. So those 2 go together and the other 2 go together. That's 4 places. 4, you know, so rant over. Okay, so I think I'm going to shorten this a little bit. Like, I kind of want my t-shirt to be a little bit like that short. So let's see, what's this? You know, it's nice when you have something for reference. It's about 2.5 inches shorter. So we'll go up just a little bit there and a little bit here. Right? And then we'll just do an even 3/4, but you could do a little bit more. You could do a little bit less. Like you could just have the looseness up here and it kind of go taper at the hips if you like. That might even be more flattering, right? Just depends. Or the reverse. You could do it fitted still here and then really go out at the bottom. That's kind of more my style. I really like that. So let's do that. Let's actually just add a little bit more than the 3 inches. Let's add 1.25 inches. All right. So we'll do 1.25 inches like this. And now we're going to do a perpendicular right angle right there, perpendicular line to that. And now let's kind of just taper this. Let me use my pencil a little bit before I do this, all the Sharpie. I'm really just looking at this. I'm not looking at the measurement. So now what I've done is I've added a little, I've taken away my negative ease here, and then I made it a little looser at the bottom, which I'm really loving the idea of that actually. That sounds like the perfect t-shirt to me. You know, I bet you guys have wanted this too, where like sometimes what I really want is it to fit like this shirt fits here. And then I want it to go really loose out here. But here's the deal. You cannot slash and spread to the middle. Like I can't cut to here and then spread this. It would just rip up here. You have to have a release point. So if I wanted to spread this out, I have to just add it and true it up, or I'd have to make this smaller. That's a no, don't do that, you know. Bye, Kara. Go to work. Have a great day. Thanks for coming and commuting with us. So that is one thing I should note, is that like when you do any slash and spreading, you have to go all the way to the edge of the pattern and have a release point, because what's happening is one's opening up and this is closing. This one's opening, because right, it's going like this. Okay. Whereas these, you know, my fingers were lined up. I'm opening out my palms. These are now overlapped. They lost. So that's where it's okay to do it in the seam allowance, but not at the bottom, or not through the middle of your garment, right? You'd have to add a seam here and then open this up. You could do that, but that's how that works. Slash and spread is really magical for a lot of things, but not everything. It doesn't work for everything. And I used to really love when they started coming out with more structured t-shirts, you know, like a few more seams and a little bit more, I don't know, just more style lines on the t-shirts, because it kind of made them a little bit like they were comfy clothes, and you had, but they were a little classier, you know what I mean? The problem with that, I think this is why those things don't stick around, is knits are just not the strongest fabrics. So if you're going to put all of that labor and effort into sewing it, you might be putting a lot of cost into a garment that's not going to last as long as something made out of a woven. And that's why you don't see, you know, structured collars and button downs as often in knits. Knits are kind of fragile. They just are. And there are some really great high quality knits out there, but it's not like, you know, the everyday places are using those knits in those kinds of designs. So, all right. But I worked for a company that did it, and it was really fun. I was like, ooh, I was so into it. I loved their styles. All right, so we have our drop shoulder, because this is my shoulder. We have our little bit of width here. So I added 3 inches here, and I added 5 inches down here. So this will be fun. I'm looking forward to this. All right. I'm always getting rid of my scraps off the table. Some of them I can keep, but some of them, I just get them out of my way. Usually I throw them on the ground. You can always tell when where I've been working. I don't know how to describe what a good armhole looks like. I just kind of know. You don't want anything too crazy of a curve. You want it to flow. Let's look at it from this side. It looks way better, right? Not bad. Okay, I didn't do my hem yet. This is my hem, actually. I just cut the excess paper off originally so I could staple it. They actually make staplers so you can go in the middle of really wide things. I don't have one of those. Never really needed one. Okay, so here's my back. So what should we call this? We'll just call this the drop tee. Size Cerami. Center back, 1 3/8 inch seams, 1/4 inch hems. And I think I'll make this one with a neckband, so we might have to true up the neck a little bit. All right, let's finish with our front. Making sure that'll fit. I always make the fold really nice and crisp. It just makes a big difference. Okay, so here's our front. It was so hard to fold the paper on this little table this morning that I kept getting it like off. It was driving me nuts. Couldn't believe I was so bad at folding the paper. But it's kind of restricted with the camera and the microphone. I was like, I'm trying to fold the paper. Okay, so there's my front. So we added 2 inches on our drop shoulder. I didn't cut this shoulder very well, I can tell. I may have to straighten it out a little bit. All right, so I'm gonna line it up with this 3/8 inch seam right here, 2 inches. So we just dropped our cap. We're gonna add 3/4 of an inch here. Let's get our seam line to stay in the same spot. And we're going to remove 2.5 inches in the hem. You can see why I like the see-through ruler, right? Like you can see on, like into the ruler, the lengths that you need, right? It's so nice. Okay, and then we're gonna add 1.25 inches here, which translates to 5 inches in total circumference. Now I've got my points there. The only thing I'm gonna draw without the other pattern is probably the armhole here. And then I'm gonna kind of eyeball it there. Oh, doing with a Sharpie. Not so good. Okay, these two are gonna sew together, so I may as well use one to true the other. When you line it up on the seam line, always on the seam line. Seam allowance doesn't matter, it's always the seam line. There we go. That looks good. You know, I feel like I used to have this little like slacker in me that would be like, it's fine, and not check things. It's like the wishful thinking slacker. You know, we have like lots of different slackers in us, lazy people. And one of them was, it's like, I didn't want to know if it wasn't fine. And then something shifted in me when you know, when you want to get better, you got to make yourself accountable, right? And so then I'd be like, no, I'm going to check that. I don't want to be there. I don't, you know, really, when you're working at a place with 150 people and you're one of 2 pattern drafters keeping 120 people down on a production floor busy, you do not want them to come up and say, every time we sew these and we've made thousands, this little part it takes us 2 minutes longer. And you're like, oh, I should have checked that better. You don't want to hear that, right? You don't want to hear that it's wrong. You don't want to. They love sometimes, because if they don't want to do that new design, because sometimes there's some resistance, they're going to be like, hey, you know, call you on it a little bit. So it's better to just be like, check it and be like, I stand behind this, right? It's better to know. It takes you, you know, 5 minutes to an hour to fix something rather than it taking thousands of dollars away from the company you're working for too. It's just smart. I'm blending that in with that line, but I just, I'm going to keep this piece of paper. That'll be good for my neckband. I remember those moments when I really decided, oh, I want to get better at this. It was the same with my sewing. I just remember that moment. I remember where I was sitting and I was like, I am the boss of this thing. This thing's not going to master me right now. I really want to get good at this thing. And so I just stopped and I just sat there going, okay, what is it? Why do I always get stuck at this spot in the sewing? What's happening? Looking under it, and it's when it's under the needle, like, where is that going? Why is it doing that, you know? It's like that push. Really, because I hated being frustrated. We just did that recently, remember, with the invisible zipper. You know, we were like, I was like, okay, if I'm going to sew the invisible zipper on my industrial machine, I'm going to need to figure this out because it's not working that great. All right, so there's our drop style, drop shoulder tee, you know. Drop tee. Oops, center front. This is kind of how they would label it in the industry. It just makes sense to me. Sometimes you would have the fabrication here and the pattern piece. Usually you have the business name and then the style number, the size, what it is, how many seam longs. That's about it. Okay, here we go. Now, let's do the hard part. Draft the sleeve. And by hard, it's not going to be that bad because it's a symmetrical sleeve. I've spent a lot of hours in my life failing at sleeves. This one will be easy. I remember when they used to just confound me. Getting this and this, like these 3 points into that, sometimes you can really get it down a rabbit hole that you just cannot claw your way out of, and you just need to start over, you know. All right, so let's just trace down our sleeve here. So yeah, we can talk a little bit about sleeves. Like say you wanted, this is a woven sleeve and you wanted to add gathers, slash down to your hemline, slash up to those points, and then spread. Then you have your gathers. Then you don't need to match the seam line to there. You just need to put the appropriate amount of gathers that you want in there. If you want other little details like cuffs and things like that, there's flutter sleeves where you're not adding the fullness to the cap, you're adding it to the hem. Then you're slashing up this way, up to the seam line, and then, you know, nip into it so that you have that release point. Open it up, and you want to do those things symmetrical across the sleeve. And then you might also have to change your hemline, or like this. There's lots of things you can do. It's really fun. Okay, So we're going to take off our sleeve cap. So we need to take this 2 inches off right here. Just like we added it on there, we have to take it off here. Okay? Gone. And now you're going to kind of look at this. Like that. But how long do I want this sleeve? So right now, my cap, you know, like that would be my sleeve length, right? So I definitely want to add some more sleeve length to this. So let's see. What do we think? Maybe like right above my elbow, like maybe 4 inches. So let's see here. Add 4 inches. I might want to adjust that eventually. We need to add to our sleeve line here because remember we added 3/4 of an inch to the garment for the bust circumference. That is this measurement right here. Because this measurement right here goes out 3/4 right there, and that's it. But you can't just do that and then hope this whole line's gonna match. You need to measure your line here and on your front and on your sleeve. You have to. You can make it fudge, it's knit, you don't have to, I know, but you know, like, do yourself a favor when you're sitting at the sewing machine and, you know, check it now. All right, so this is 8 3/4 without the seam allowance. Let's see what this one is. This one's 8 1/4. So that's 17 plus the seam allowance. So 17 3/4. So we can split those in half. Okay, so here's another thing about notches, fronts and backs, notches and symmetry in sleeves. When you're doing knit and there's no ease built into it, you still don't really need those notches. If the seam is going to match from the sleeve to the armhole, there's no extra ease built in, you don't have to have those notches. And typically they wouldn't in the industry because anytime you cut into knit, like you put a little nip into it, you're weakening that point and you can start a run. So they try not to notch knits hardly at all. In fact, sometimes they use chalk. They use puff. It's called puff. It's just notching with chalk. And it's not a notch at all, it's just a mark. But that's expensive. Every little chalk mark, every time you notch something, that is one more penny away from their bottom line. So more markings is worse pattern than less markings is, unless you're in high-end stuff. So, all right, so let's see. So we have, what did I say, 17 3/4. Or we could just look at these each as 8 1/2 plus the 3/8, 8 7/8. Sometimes I can do the math quick. So let's see here. I'm going to measure along here. So it's about right here, including my seam allowance. So see, if I would have added that 3/4, the sleeve would have been too big. All right, so let's add some volume to the hem circumference. And again, I'm not going to add a whole lot because this is the thing is like I feel like this will be more flattering if it's a little bit closer fitting boxy tee, you know. So let's try 12. What is this? Wait a minute. I think I had my, did I have that upside down? What the heck? Oh, that's 12, right? Just because my bicep's bigger. All right, we'll do 13. Okay. So then this is without the seam allowance. So we're going to add our seam allowance. This is our cut line right here. And then we need we actually have our hem built in here already. So let's see here. Right here. Plus 3/8. This is my line right here. I really dug in with my pencil there. Okay, so let's put our hem shape. So let's draw my line 3/4. That's where this line needs to fold up to. Like that. Not this right here. Looking more like a t-shirt sleeve now, right? Hello, Cass. How's it going? Yeah, I mean, you can if it helps you, but you could just use like pen if it's just for you, right? You're not cutting 500 of them. This was a lot of waste of paper. Darn. I'm always surfing in my paper recycling bin for scraps. It's like my holder sometimes. All right, let's see. Yeah, you won't really see a whole lot of notches on knits. Not to mention also, I just feel like there's a lot of things at play here that I'm kind of glossing over, but classically, especially in the States, knits are considered very casual wear. I think they are in other parts of the world as well. In fact, I think that you don't see them quite as often sometimes. I mean, you do, but not the prevalence that we have here, right? We invented the knit t-shirt and denim. That's like our two things. And, you know, sportswear. Sportswear is another thing that we can lay claim to. And you typically find knits are going to be associated with budget wear, not in a class way, but in this is affordable to make and sew. You can use the serger. It's one and done. It's fast. They've really tailored the industry to this style of manufacturing. It doesn't mean that it was naturally supposed to be that way. It's just because everyone really loved wearing knits. It just blew up. They'd been wearing polyester and wovens and constrictive clothing and girdles and all that, and then all of a sudden knits were invented and it just changed the world. So that industry exploded and all the money went towards that, right? So that means that it's the more affordable thing to manufacture now, you know? Oh, perfect. Oh, really? Well, you know, a lot of people are nervous sewing knits, Cass, and especially because if someone had a serger and they're not supposed to use pins, they might give the notches as just kind of a helpful guide so that you don't have to use pins. Because you can just, you know, hold notch to notch and then get to the next spot notch to notch. So that is typically why our knits are so budget sometimes too, is because that's just the way our industry went. It's just the direction. If we all really loved wearing button-down Oxfords, those would be the most affordable thing to buy and wear. It's just like, you look at anything, you're like, this item was really expensive 20 years ago and now it's really cheap. So it's just how it is. All right, so that's you can see kind of my old sleeve. And that's my new sleeve. It doesn't look like a classic t-shirt sleeve, and I'm really glad about that because I don't want it to fit like a classic t-shirt sleeve. I think it's gonna be a little long, you know? But I'm excited to make them. Okay, so I can see right here that I don't have a straight line. You see that? Womp womp. So let's straighten that out a little bit. Let's look at this. This looks like it dips. Yeah. So I could do this a little better here. I'm going to shave off a little bit right here, really carefully. If this were for a customer, I would do this a little differently. I'm totally cheating. Yeah, they're so nice. They're forgiving, right, Carol? I mean, they're nice that they're forgiving fit-wise. They're quick to sew if you have the setup, you know. I mean, you can do them on a home sewing machine. That totally works too. But they can be kind of speedy too. They're really satisfying. There's usually fewer pieces to sew. And, you know, if you're using a serger, all you need is a serger and a zigzag, and you're done. It's pretty nice. Okay, so this is the drop tee. This is, I gotta check this. Let's see. Do you see that optical illusion? It's making it look dipped right there. I just want to make sure it's not. I feel like it kind of still is. I think I can shave a little bit right here. What I'm seeing is, let's see if we can see it on the blue line. You see how it's kind of too flat right there? I don't mind it being flat, but I don't like this, that there's these shoulders right here, so to speak. It's not a very nice shape. No one's grading me, but, you know, it'll bug me. And there's, I can, you know, I can kind of feel it. I'm not sure. Let's see. That looks a lot better. That looks better. Okay, drop tee. Sleeves 2 3/8, 3/4. All right, let's add a neckband. And I'm going to trace off my front and make a V-neck as well. So let's do our V-neck too. I like V-necks a lot. Ooh, you got a serger. Congratulations. Yeah, what'd you get? Not that I know them all, but I'm sure someone else would like to know too. This is why I like hard lead pencils. Like, you see how this one's already getting like soft, you know, round. All right, so for the V-neck, when you have like an actual scoop neck, you don't have to do too much different. You got a baby lock, nice. Yeah, it is kind of a game changer. It is nice, you know. You don't have to have them, but they do. Like, if you're gonna sew consistently, they are really handy. They're really nice. I mean, they would be faster to sew with, you know, like I'm always doing the French seams, you know, which I actually like, but, you know. All right, so let's look at this V-neck. Let's see. I don't want my grain line ruler anywhere near me. It'll leave a line. Oh, it's a Triumph combo cover. Oh, you got a cover stitch. Oh, very cool. I need to get mine tuned up. All right, so I don't want this to go down much further. And then if there's a neckband, I need to account for that too. So I'm gonna go about 1 1/8 inches lower than the scoop I have now. This has seam allowance on it. And I'm just gonna kind of go from this, oh my gosh, that's terrible. There we go. You can do a straight V. I'm gonna kind of do a scoopy one, like that, okay? I bet the whole camera moves when I do that. Sorry, guys. I'll try and stop doing it. You know, you can get a stand, if you have the space, Malin, you can get a standalone cover stitch and they can be like $300 or $400 instead of buying a machine that's a combo. Then you don't have to convert it. You know, then you can have it sitting there always going. If it's only going to do that, they're not expensive. If you already have a serger you like. All right, I'm gonna. I really love V-necks. I'm kind of busty. I find them to be more flattering on me. I don't like a whole lot of fabric up here, you know? I like to kind of break it up. But I will say, like, if you're sewing a V-neck, there's only 2 ways really to do it. You can't use your cover stitch or a zigzag hem. You can't do that. That's nice. Oh, that's cool, Carol. You're used to it. That's even better. Because of the V, you can't fold it over to hem. Just so you guys know. It's really obvious when you go to do it. I know a lot of you know that already, but it's good to note. So there's only 2 ways you could do it, and only really 1 way you would do a knit, and that would be a band, to do a neck band. But you can do a facing. Can't do binding. Yeah, standalone cover. Are they? Oh, okay. Yeah. That makes sense. They might be more expensive over there. We're really sewing machine crazy here. I go to the sewing store and I'm like, how is there a market for all of these machines? I don't mess with the shoulder unless I want to. That is a style thing. I'm fine with this. We could go out further. But I kind of like this, you know, I'm just going to go a little bit lower right here, you know. What do you think? Remember, this has seam allowance on it, hem allowance. So you could, I mean, there's lots of options, right? You could bring in the neckline. You can bring out the neckline. You could do a boat neck, right? So you could do this really high, but then wide here. There's lots of options. Just make sure you blend at your shoulders so that the intersection there is a 90-degree angle. Otherwise, you're going to have to smooth it out with your hemming anyway. That's why I keep saying that. It's going to happen. So you might as well just do it at the pattern table. Yeah. So... and as far as the neckband goes, the kind you would use on a V-neck starts and stops at the center. You can do 2 different kinds. You can do one that overlaps like this, a V, or one that meets and there's a seam. So I'll draw a picture. I'll draw it on the side since it's already messy. So there's this style, right? Ignore that. And there's this style where it's overlapped right there. And then this is rib. Doesn't have to be rib. You can do self or self meaning interlock or something. You can use your fabric. It's fine. Yeah, exactly, Tracy. That's a pet peeve of mine too. In fact, that's why I said at the beginning, if you guys also use your Monetta to draft your t-shirt like I did, look at all of this up here on the Monetta really closely. People say, oh, this dress, I can wear it the front on the back and the back on the front. Okay, Olivia. Oh, I'm really glad. I'm glad. I don't want it to be too in-depth. That's why I kind of hesitate about it sometimes. Drive safe. Yeah, because you're not supposed to be able to switch a garment from the front to the back and the back to the front. People are like, oh, if I want more of a scoop neck, I just wear my dress backwards. It doesn't work like that. It's just lucky that that works that way because the shoulder slope is going to come to the front usually. And that one, it doesn't. It's like right up on top, you know? So that's how you can get away with it. But the Monetta is further apart. My Monettas all barely cover my straps, and I do feel like I fuss with it during the day. That's why I say check the Monetta on you if you use it as your t-shirt block. But if you do, you can get to this point because there's the video where I draft the first one, and then there's these. So if you already have the Monetta, it's a good spot. And it's a really great dress. I have so many of them. That's why I haven't sewn one on stream, but I really should. It's such a great dress. There was Monetta madness there for a few years, you know? I think I have 4 of them. It is like the perfect dress like to relax in. So great. So, all right, so let's make our neckband. I feel like I ruined that piece of paper now. Let's see. I think this will be long enough. This isn't my usual table. I have a really big table. It's behind my sewing machine, so if you're new here, you'll see it behind me when I'm sewing. But I set this one up because I need to be really close to the computer to be able to have the video work. I can only be like 3 feet away for the cameras, so I don't have any loss in the video. So I'm using a smaller table. You like the Monetta? Yeah, we could totally do the Monetta. I kid you not, I can sew that dress in a half hour. It's so fast. I just serge it all together, it takes more time to convert my machine to the cover stitch than to sew it practically. It's so great. We should totally do one. I should just do it as a standalone video. I'll just sew one. That would be fun. I'd love that. Love that dress. Oh, not a good choice. Oh, yeah, exactly. It got longer and longer. That's so funny. That stuff's heavy, isn't it? That viscose. But it's drapey. I bet it's cute. Night, Malin. Sleep well. Thanks for coming. I appreciate it. Nice to see you. Okay, so let's do this neckband. All right, so if you wanted a neckband on your scoop neck tee, listen closely. That would be a half day for me. No, I know you can get it down there. I would tell you, the gathers on the waist of that skirt to the bodice, those take a little bit, but you know what I do? I cheat and I use the differential feed on my serger because I have one. That's why. It's not perfect, but I can scrunch it up and it works pretty good. Okay, so if you wanted a neckband on a rounded neck tee, find this measurement on the seam line. So take off the shoulder seams, take off your seam allowance for the rolled hem. Just don't remove it off the pattern, but just find that measurement on the seam line all the way around your neck, and then you're going to make a pattern piece. Okay, so let's say you want your ribbing to finish 3/4 of an inch wide when it's folded and finished sewn. 3/4. That might be a little wider than you want or a little narrower, so just adjust accordingly. So you're going to cut your piece 1.5 plus 3/4, so 2.25 inches wide. And then for the length, you're going to take that seam length of your neckline, and then you're going to do it to 2 3/4 by the seam length of your neckline, but minus 2 inches, and see how that goes. Depends on your fabric, but in general, 1.5 to 2.5 inches you're going to remove off of your neckband. Start with 1.5 inches off. It might be enough. Just depends on your fabric. If you're using rib, maybe take 2 inches off. And there's a few reasons you do that. You take that off because you want it to lay flat against your body when it's sewn in, and you need to remove some volume. And remember, where that neckband folds, the fold line, that is further into your neck, so it's a shorter distance. It's just like how we talk about folding up the hem and finding the hem shape. It's the same type of thing. Think of it that way. It helps. So if you want to do a neckband on a scoop neck tee, find your length of your neckline, add your seam allowance to the end, so 3/8 and 3/8, so 3/4, and then take off 1.5 inches. And then your width, don't take as much for a cuff. Take about 3/4. It's a percentage. So if you're, you're going to put a cuff in a 9-inch length, you're not going to take off 1.5 inches. Unless you want it to cinch, then yes. And you're going to stretch your cuff to fit like in a sweatshirt? Yeah. Yeah. You need to remove some of the length, and you're going to cut it on the cross grain so that the stretch is going the length of that piece. So I'll just reiterate that, because I'm making a neckband for a V-neck. It's going to be a little different. So you would go to this. This is your neck seam plus 3/8 on each end, 3/4 total, and then minus 1.5 inches. Just minus that 1.5. This is going to be 3/4 and 3/8, 3/4 and 3/8. That's your seam. That's your seam. So 1.5 plus 3/4 is 2.25. 2.25, and then the length 2.25. Neck length minus 3/4 inch. And that takes care of your seam allowance. This is for a round neckband. And this is the length grain. This is the cross grain when you cut it out. Stretch needs to go like this. Okay, there you go. I hope that helps someone. Okay, so let's find out what my neck band is here. And I actually am going to remove about 3/4 inch off my neck, because I don't want this to get any closer up. So if you need to do that on your scoop neck before you do all those measurements, make sure you do it. So this is I'm going to make my neckband 3/4 inch wide finish. So I'm going to take off 3/4 inch. My throat's getting sore from talking. I don't see many people, you guys. I just talk to you guys. Okay. Dang it. I just cut that off of my shirt. Yeah. That's okay. I think I want this shirt with a neckband anyway. That's right. Bye, Eliza. Ooh. That's a good question. I don't know. It probably is really similar. You could use that. I think sewing wise it'll be the same. I think the Pharaoh is more volume around the hem. Does anyone know? Yeah, I feel like because it's fitted through the shoulders. But I don't know. I don't have that pattern, so I can't look at it to know that the sleeve and the armhole are the same. Just so you know. Oh my gosh, you guys. I just cut. Oh, that's what I did wrong. Okay, well, you know what? I'm going to have to make a neckband for my scoop tee. It has a fair... Okay, thanks, Louise. Yeah, so I just removed that 3/4 inch off my scoop neck. I'm getting distracted and tired. Sorry. I need to focus. Let's see here. Yeah, I think sounds like Louise knows what that one looks like. You know what I would do is, if you can look at the the pattern on the website, but look at the drawing of it on the envelope. Like, not the pictures of it or the sketch of it. on the front of the envelope, but the one that's usually next to the instructions for cutting it out, like the yardage, that is more of like a schematic. Okay, so I'm trimming off this amount because that's what my neckband's going to be. And now I need a scoop neckband because I actually do want this t-shirt to have a neckband. I didn't want to really hem it. Oh, you have it. Perfect. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, the Pharaoh dress. You like it? Okay, so let me measure this now. I measure on the seam line, and that is 8 3/4. I just write it on there. And then future me, when future me looks at this pattern, they go, oh, I already measured that. Not that I'll trust past me, I'll still measure it. I know me. Okay, so that's 6 1/4. So I'm going to try and make the fold version. I don't quite remember how to do it, so I'm going to try and figure it out right now. And it is symmetrical because this folds underneath here or there. It's the same. Okay, so I'm doing this one right here. I love the way that looks. Yeah. Yeah, exactly, Eliza. I think the sewing will be the same. I'll try and remember to check it out. And then that way I can tell you as I'm going. Okay, 6 1/4 and 8 3/4. And then I'm going to, so that's 15 inches. And then that's on the half. So on the whole, that is 30 inches. And I want to take off 1.5 inches. So that's 28 1/2 plus my seam allowance. So it's 29 1/4, including my seam allowance. So I'm going to actually take off the seam allowance there. So let's say it's, I'm going to do 28 3/4 plus my seam allowance because I need to do that little, I need to do this shape. I actually don't need to do a shape. Pretty sure. I can't remember. 29 1/4, so I could just do it on the half. So let's see. Let me try that again. 14, 15 minus 3/4 of an inch is 14 1/4. Okay. Again, it's not always the most accurate to do a 90-degree angle with a see-through ruler on the fold, but it's pretty good. And then my width is going to be 3/4 plus 3/4 plus 3/8 plus 3/8. Yeah, I love that dress. Yeah, totally. What did I say it was going to be? 3/4, 3/4. It's 1.5, 2 1/4. I know, I saw that and I actually asked, I was like, will you guys show a back view? Have you noticed there's never a back view? That's, for me, when I never see back views, I get suspicious. I'm like, what's the back look like? But then they provided a picture. She actually replied to me and provided one in their stories of a side view, which helps a lot. I think that dress is really cute. I always thought it was a dress. I forgot it was a tunic. Yeah, so this is going to have the fold line. It's right about here. I'm going to look at this logically. And so when this is sewn, I may have to like fuss with this when I go to sew it. So this is my finished band right here, right? And it's going to get sewn into this edge and this edge like that. And then I will do the overlap. You know? So I actually think I could add just a touch right there for the curve. So I'm going to add like a fat 1/8 of an inch right there, to compensate for the fact that when I did my V, I didn't do this, you know? I scooped it, remember? So that, and it's not quite a 90-degree angle right here anyway, but I just wanted to add a little bit of that to the fold, if that makes sense. Because this is where my neckband is, so I'm just compensating for that. Not bad. Let's do my other one too. My scoop neck one that I just gave you the big old lecture on how to draft. Okay, so that's 8 3/8 plus 6 1/4. 13 5/8. So 14 5/8. Plus 3/8 and minus 3/4 and 2 1/4 wide. I haven't done these in so long. I hope I'm doing this right. But I just remember when I go to sew these, they are kind of still in the prototype phase. I don't want to cut that. All right. Almost done. Yes, exactly. It is. It's a major decision, especially me. The way my across my back shoulders, it doesn't. Those dresses that are just straight in the back won't look good on me. Like the Wixton. I think the Wixton shift is really cute, but there's no shaping at the back waist, so I feel like it'll look like just too voluminous on me. And I don't like belts. I'm so picky. Sorry. I like things that are naturally going to skim my body without any extra things. Like belts and things. They're less fussy throughout the day and they look nicer longer all day. Ooh, I just cut that really crooked. This is not the most accurate way to cut these long, narrow things. It's always these long, narrow things that are the trickiest to cut straight and consistent. And there's smaller room for error. You know, it's kind of like those. Your kids are like, oh, I'm so excited. My test was only 10 questions. And I'm always like, oh, that's not good. You miss 1, you still have an A. You miss 2, you're down to a B. You miss 3, you're down to a C. You know, it's the same with this. It's like the less room you have, the less you have to work with. Oh, so this is my scoop. Yeah. So the patterns are very similar to each other. The scoop's just going to go around, and I like to line up the seam at the shoulder, but you don't have to. Why do you cut the full piece? You know what? Does it make it easier to pull the staple to not cut on the fold? It's more accurate, that's all. It's just a habit. Because it can go, if I had it folded, it can do that so easily. It feels totally flat to me. You know? So when I staple it, I have a greater chance of cutting it more accurately, straight up and down. But you guys might want to, you know, say cut 1 on the fold. That's just not as accurate when you're cutting it out fabric-wise. Oh yeah, I know. These are great. They're pattern paper scissors. I don't use them for fabric, but they're just so accurate. They're great. You can order them. They're made by Vebros. See? Can you see that? Right there. Yeah, there we go. These are mine from college. I had to do that for someone. Write paper on there. Yeah, so I cut all my patterns full and not cut on the fold because it's more accurate. That's all. You don't have to do that at all. Habit. It's totally my habit because I've just been doing this a long time. There's definite advantages to it, but you don't have to do that, especially if you don't have like a huge roll of paper like I do, or you're just using scraps of paper, or you're modifying a store-bought pattern, you know. So, well, I feel like we went over a lot today. This was a really, you know, meat-packed, it was a meaty pattern tutorial, right? Let's do this. V-neck drop tee. I have so many things to sew now. I'm pretty excited. So we made the drop tee, like a drop shoulder. You know, drop shoulder. We made neck bands for that view. We refined the scoop neck tee that I'm wearing. So I feel like I have finally fulfilled my Me Made May pledge, you know? Because my Me Made May pledge was to find a t-shirt that I love to wear and sew so I can make them, because I just don't really like them. And I just feel kind of wasteful getting them and they don't last very long. Oh, awesome, Eliza. That's nice of you. I'm so glad you like them. Thanks. You guys are awesome. So I really hope that this helps you guys. And then Saturday we will be, yeah, I feel like this was, we really covered a lot here. And come on, it's a t-shirt. You really need t-shirts, right? And making nice ones is so nice, you know? Like not just junky t-shirts, because I have plenty of those too. And I get really cute graphic tees from people, and I cannot get rid of some of them. I love them. Especially I get really great Harry Potter ones. And I have some from Patchwork Threads that have like the quilting things. And I have some that say so cool, SEW, so cool. I have a few of those. But I wear them on the weekends, like one day a week maybe. I just don't wear graphic tees very often. So Saturday, we're going to do Beyond Mending. I feel this is a very selfish day, but I know you guys wanted it. And so these are the things I'm going to go through. So I have this dress I bought in Mexico. And let's just face it, I'm not going to wear it as a dress. It's muslin. It's really boxy. Talk about pillowcase back. It's just solid. But it's gorgeous embroidery, you know. And it's traditional there, and I just really want to wear it occasionally. So I'm going to make that into a shirt, I think, if I have time. I need to make, you know how I have these, I made this dress. This is the Hawthorne dress by Colette. If it's great, if you need a basic bodice pattern that you want to adjust into other patterns, the Hawthorne is a great basic bodice. Talk about like classic bodice with darts. You've got your darts. I think there's only a vertical dart, and then there's back darts. Perfect starter. We have the Colette Moneta for our t-shirt and the Colette Hawthorne for a nice basic bodice, you know, so if you don't want to draft them from scratch, start from here. But my buttons, because of these little like nips in them for the petals of the flowers, they're kind of gapping. And because I did use interfacing, I hardly do sometimes, but I did use interfacing. It wasn't heavyweight enough. Ooh, I'm getting like little funny things in it too. I didn't use a serger on this. I used a little hem. I hemmed my facing. Oh yeah, it has a back shoulder dart. It's got a Peter Pan collar. That's what these are called when they're flat. It's called Peter Pan. My buttonholes gap like this. See that? Can you see that behind here? So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come up with some way, because making the buttonholes smaller isn't going to help this. I'm going to probably put something on the other side of the button to prevent the gapping. I don't know, we'll figure it out. It's one of my things, but I know everyone has gapping buttonholes somewhere, right? This is my dad's shirt he got. Like I told you guys, they lost everything in the fire. They just finally moved into their house and out of their hotel this week. But they still have like a few, like they've been buying just random clothes and getting donations and everything because they couldn't amass very much living in a hotel. They had a little tiny closet. But this Hawaiian t-shirt with woodies on it is just way too big on him. So I'm going to shorten the sleeves and I'm going to bring it in. You can see my pin right here. It's got a flat-filled seam incidentally, so I have to deal with that. And I know someone else said that their husband's been has slimmed down and that she needs to do that with shirts. And then I have this pair of jeans I made, my first pair of ginger jeans. They were too big, too high-waisted. I took the waistband off. I'm going to replace it. So I thought I had some denim. I'm glad I saved the waistband. I may have to use it. So I'm going to replace my waistband. And I probably should just do this on my own. One of my ties came off of my Charlie. It just pulled right off. So yeah, that's kind of what I'm going to do. It's going to be kind of a kick back and chill. We can do our mending together, but kind of beyond. Oh, to sew a button? Yeah, we could do that. Will you remind me, Eliza? Because I do have a great method to do it that I learned working for this really intense woman. But she had a really great way to sew buttons on. And it's like you weave in and make a shank. And oh yeah, you're right, my class is tomorrow. That's tomorrow. Thank you for reminding me, Louise. Yeah, so yeah, and enough people signed up for it, so it's on. In fact, I think I might, yeah. So, yeah. Thanks for the good luck. I hope it goes okay. I hope I know what I'm doing. I'm making the willow tank locally for a class, so. Awesome. All right, well, thanks, guys. I don't even know what time it is. That was a long stream, but I think we covered a lot, so I'll make my goodbyes brief. So I'll see you Saturday at 11 a.m. Pacific. If you're new here and you want to chat with us, we really want you to. You just need to create a YouTube account, which is called a channel. That's what they call it. I'm also on Twitch. And you can find me on Instagram and my website, soso.live. If you want to find like a project that we've sewn and you can't find all the videos that go with it, look there. It's way easier. You can just look up the project and then all of the video links are there. And my notes. It's a very concise format. Thanks, Carol. I think I will. I think it'll be really fun. I'll let you guys know how it goes. So you're welcome. Thanks, Elaine. All right, guys. Well, happy sewing. And I will see you Saturday. That's right around the corner. And yeah, I don't know what else to say. I feel like we did really good today. So thank you. I really appreciate it. And thanks to Dina. I think it was Dina that gave me that donation the other day. You're welcome, Veronica. Bye, Louise. Bye, Pam. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. Oh, and you can, if you click the bell on YouTube, it'll let you know when I'm live, so then you don't have to like tune into Instagram to see when that's happening. But it's always Thursdays and Saturdays at 11 a.m. And then sometimes there's an extra stream earlier in the week that I just kind of announce all of a sudden. So, all right. Bye, guys. Have a great rest of your week. See you Saturday, and thank you so much.